So it's come to this, gentlemen. Final round. Are we ready?
We are ready.
Let's tackle.
Are we ready, or are we ready for it to be over? These are two distinctly different questions.
You know what? I feel good this year now. I feel like I got a couple of W's in the bag, and I'm ready to roll now.
I think it's like, because like on the Harrison, you've definitely felt worse coming into this category.
Oh yeah, knowing the inevitable march to Psychonauts was unstoppable.
Okay, so this is 2023's Game of the Year. Previous winners in this category. Remember, this is the only category for which we have an ordered list of first, second, and third. This will be the same this year as it always has been. In 2015, Super Mario Maker in third, Metal Gear Solid 5 in second, and The Witcher 3 first. 2016, Superhot in third, Doom in second, Hitman in first. That was a fucking great year.
That's a great year.
I mean, a lot of these have been banger years. In 2017, Cuphead third, and a joint first of Breath of the Wild and Super Mario Odyssey. 2018, Celeste in third, God of War second, Marvel Spider-Man first. 2019, Outer Wilds third, Control second, Ape Out first. I know, buddy. I know.
Yeah.
Let the record show.
Let the record recognize.
2020, Hades in third, The Last of Us Part 2 in second, and myself and Mark's ultimate team up, Paradise Killer in first.
I mean,
which year were you more mad at?
Ape Out by a country mile. Paradise Killer rocks. I mean, it does rock.
2021, Hitman 3 in third, Resident Evil Village second, Psychonauts 2 in first. Jack.
Yeah. 2 and 3 are great, though.
2022, Splatoon 3 in third, Live Alive second, Elden Ring first. Pick the year that Garrett joined the podcast.
Hey, Live Alive.
You want to talk about games of not this year controversies? Live Alive making it all the way to the second best game of that year.
Yeah.
Because it was technically not released in Europe back in
Japan.
Was it 1992 when it first came out for the SNES.
Purely on the basis that it wasn't good enough to be released in Europe at the time.
because like the Nintendo of Europe were like, get this out of my sight. Don't ask me which part of Europe I'm from.
I am generically European. Get this out
I'm
of my
non-specific European Nintendo man. Bring me the plumber.
To this, I can only say, die mad, nerd.
I will.
You see, Barry had an onion tied to his belt, as was the style at the time.
The nominees for 2023 are as follows: Alan Wake 2, Baldur's Gate 3, Cocoon, Dave the Diver, Dredge, F-Zero 99, Ghostrunner 2, Hi-Fi Rush, Humanity, Tears of the Kingdom, Lies of P, Mortal Kombat 1, Octopath Traveler 2, Pizza Tower, Marvel Spider-Man 2, Star Wars Jedi Survivor, Super Mario Wonder, and Thirsty Suitors.
I'm already going to hate every second of this.
Do you know what's funny about this? This is the first appearance of a few of these games.
Including Lies of P, which I think would be represented quite highly if young Mr. Kidney was here.
I was thinking, like, in terms of the reviews and stuff, like Lies of P and Cocoon were massive standouts.
I think the thing with Lies of P is that...
Oh, we can't it now? Okay.
No. It's just, it's like the sum of its parts that kind of argue, because it's usually like every year there's one or two games that don't really appear in any specific category because they're not like a knockout in any particular thing, but it all comes together as a package.
They're not best in class at any one thing, but they're excellent at a lot of things.
I think
and this is also the award where we talk about actual gameplay. Well, where that's the big X factor, I suppose, for stuff like.
You saying we need to have a best gameplay category next year, Barry? Is that what we're getting at?
That's this.
I thought he was saying we needed Uncle Cracker on board for this X Factor talk.
Rather kill everyone on board.
Okay. Right, so we've repopulated the wheel to give everyone a fair chance to be the first one to take a crack at Game of the Year. So, independent observer, please.
Okay.
Observe this, brother.
Yeah, it's spinning. He's spinning.
And it is, in fact, going to be Dave.
I am happy to reroll.
He said that every time as well.
Get on with it.
Just getting it over.
Okay. You think I would have had this in the chamber to be ready?
You think?
I mean, there are no friends. The one thing about this category this year is like we keep going, this is going to be a marathon, this is going to be a marathon, and still might. There might be people looking at the timestamp on this part of the show and being like, oh
my
what
God.
idiots.
Yeah.
But also, this is like the shortest list of
it feels
Game of the
like
Year
it's
we've had in about
yours,
4 years.
But if anything, it feels tighter. Like, I'm looking at all of these games, and like, obviously, I didn't think all of them can win Game of the Year, but you can say a lot of good things about everything.
I think it's just that there's a little bit more crossover this year than in previous years.
Yeah.
Like I feel like last year in particular for me was like a kind of a bit there was actually no, it was last year or the year before, because I remember I think it was 2021. I had 3 of my entries like written off in a row, which still hurts. And so I think it's just a case of it's just a little bit more tighter, because I think just there's a lot of games that we've all voted for. So
Agree.
yeah, not complaining.
I think there's a lot of Venn diagram overlap here.
On that note, and I'm extremely sorry about this, but just on the does it hang stakes, Humanity?
No, it doesn't. Humanity is really cool. So like for people who are not aware, I am making a game. Expect me to talk about that a lot more over the next 12 months or so. And I have a particular like affinity for PlayStation 1 era puzzle games, because there's a bunch of them and they're really fucking weird. Whether it's Cooler World, whether it's Devil Dice,
Intelligence Cube.
Yeah, Intelligence Cube in particular, and Humanity. There's a little bit of Intelligence Cube in there in terms of some like the presentation. There's a little bit of Lemmings in there. There's a kind of like a weird
fucking Lemmings in a long time.
There's like
Remember there was always like a full page Lemmings ad in Nintendo official magazine, even though like Lemmings wasn't new.
Yeah.
If you go to Dundee, I think there's like a Lemmings like statue or platform somewhere, because that's where Rockstar's
Yeah, it's kind of like a weirdly sort of like British institution, like that and Worms, but they're from like a bygone era, except Worms sort of kind of managed to continue through to the 21st century.
I mean, I'm surprised there's not like a Lemmings pay to win style mobile
Probably
gacha
is, in
game
fairness.
somewhere.
Could you delete that bit out so that you don't give anyone ideas?
Yeah. Now you know what Mark's game's going to be, everyone.
And I do think that it's something that people should play, because it's got that perfect blend of introducing new puzzle mechanics. Like, you're constantly thinking like, all right, they can't go any further with this gimmick, but they really do. And there is that challenge of like, again, using that kind of Lemmings flow of like, all right, you have to, you have the starting point with the humans that are constantly walking, and there's the exit point, and you have to figure out how to get from point A to point B. And it constantly adds like new kind of elements of, the humans can only fall from a small distance. So if they have to do like a high jump, you have to figure out how do I make sure that they land in a safe spot. Sometimes there'll be like blocks that can be pushed. So you have to kind of time it in terms of like when the blocks get pushed far enough that you then stop it and have them go in a different direction. And it's just got this kind of weird, like ethereal spirituality to it. That kind of hangs over top. It's just a very unique product that it got a fair amount of love when it came out, but it just kind of got like fell by the wayside. But I think it's something people definitely should check out. I think I want to say it was in like the 20-30 quid region. I don't think it was.
I think it was about 30. Yeah.
And I think it had a Steam release. I don't think it was a Sony exclusive.
It did.
So it's a great Steam Deck game where I was playing it. So, but it's a top 10 game for me, absolutely for sure. I don't think it's a top 5. So, even if I really was like gonna dig my heels in, there's not much point. So it can go.
Okay. Mark.
So I maybe buried the lead a little bit of this earlier, but I'm just gonna go for it. I don't actually like Dave the Diver, and I don't think it's a top 3.
Yeah, I think I like it more than you, but I also did not get the hype at all. I was enamored with it early on, and then like I said earlier, every new thing they kept showing me, I was less into, and I don't think the core mechanic of the combat and stuff had the legs that I kind of wanted it to have. I think it's decidedly in the above okayest, but not nearly in the game of the year.
I think there's a chance, like, it's obviously in my top 10 because I was one of the people that nominated it. I think there's a chance. I think it's in with a shout of a top 5, but much the same as yourself with Humanity, Mark. I don't think
there are fights. I think there's
it's a waste of time, and like I really enjoy my time with it. I think it's some of the dumbest fun I've had all year. it's cool. Like something about like all those mechanics being thrown at you, I really enjoyed, because sometimes in games like this, and I do, depending on the game, depending on how well it's crafted, I can really appreciate when they pick like maybe one of the mechanics or the other to double down on, and like, right, our game is going to be about this, and this is all it's about. The thing about Dave the Diver is giving you such a kind of like, it's the buffet, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like you're getting little bits of everything every day, and for me, that worked perfectly because I was never doing anything for long enough to get sick of it. It's like it might be the ADHD game of the year. It's like the way I look at it, because it's like you were constantly like you said, you were really loving the sushi, the serving at the bar stuff.
Restaurant stuff, yeah.
I wonder if it was all that. How like would you have tired of it within a couple of hours?
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
yeah,
like
yeah.
it's hard to say because it's it's sliding doors. Like, but yeah, that's one of the things I really liked about it, is it was always changing up what I was doing. I fundamentally thought it was very charming. Really liked the characters. I thought the writing in it was pitch perfect.
Yeah.
I thought some of the stuff that you kind of get into on like your different weirdo phone apps where you're doing like this almost
like your Pokemon
card collecting and stuff, I thought was really like cleverly done. I thought it has a great pick up and playability.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Where like again, I just kind of stuck the controller in front of you and just went, here, figure it out. It's Dave the Diver, and you were in.
And I started trying to assassinate fish with a machine gun.
Howling like a fucking idiot, like playing it, just like
just chasing fish around
with a katana,
a blue expanse, just trying to chop them in half with a katana.
Yeah.
One thing about the game though that has been a little bit overblown is the whole, like, it got announced at the Keighley's that it was in for best indie game, and technically it's not an indie game because of the studio and who they're owned by and yada yada. And it's like this whole like idea of what an indie game,
I couldn't. Yeah, I don't.
Well, it's
care.
not like I don't care about it, but like that conversation, it's not like this is a new thing. This has been an ongoing shift for like the last 5 to 10 years.
Yeah.
Because it's not just like there's AAA and indie. You've got like the kind of triple I space. We were talking about Stray last year, and like where does that kind of fit on the spectrum? And so I don't care, because again, I don't think it should be in that category. Not because it's not being the best indie game, just I don't think it's good enough. But that whole thing, I'm kind of bored of it, because I don't. The discussion to me
just isn't interesting.
No,
do you know what I
really
mean?
isn't.
Because it's like it's one of those cultural things where now it's like it's out of our hands.
Yeah.
People have kind of decided, except for like people who are really, really inside baseball, that indie is more used to describe a style or a vibe than it is a philosophy or a business model.
Yeah.
So like there's no point in trying to close the door after the horse is bolted on that. So I don't care to have the discussion.
Because you got people now screaming about like, well, what is a cozy game? What does that mean? Because like everything is getting now applied.
It's like who gives a shit?
Yeah.
Whatever.
It's not like some people will, like, if it has anything resembling combat, you cannot call it a cozy. I'm like, shut the fuck up. Shut up.
Which is ridiculous because like Stardew Valley.
Yeah.
Anyway,
it's such a cozy game.
Yeah, Dave Diver, really great game. I like it.
Yeah, I like it a bunch. Yeah, it's not gonna. Jack.
I feel like we've kind of done the conversation a couple of times around this game. So I'm gonna take an axe to Mortal Kombat 1.
Yeah.
I think if it was like gameplay of the year, it hangs for a long time, because I think the actual like, it feels so good to play a match in Mortal Kombat. It's such a tightly tuned machine.
Yeah.
As we said earlier, it looks fucking great.
Yeah.
Although I will
for
say
so long the story is good.
Yeah, but I would say as well, the other issue I had was that I can't remember what is it, Conquest mode, the board game, the Mario Party looking thing, nowhere near as fun as you would actually. It looked like it was going to be. It's a bit dry.
It's one of those. I respected it more than I enjoyed it. Like, look, you're going for something a bit weird,
but I feel like they were trying to evoke. Remember, in like the PS2 era of those games where they were doing so much. They had a fully fledged like RPG in those games, and they had chess and they had kart racer. But like when they showed footages, they were trying to evoke that. But in actuality, it's just basically kind of like it's just kind of randomized matches for currency.
I think I would be madder at that mode if it was there in place of the classic towers.
No, of
you know
course,
what I mean? It's kind of like when I think of a game that like I'm mad at because of certain features it had. I think of AEW. Like, obviously, it's not on this list.
Yep.
But like AEW was filling with all this pointless the trivia games and things like that in lieu of having actually built out, fleshed out modes. Like, I'm not going to be mad at a mode I probably wasn't going to play anyway being a little bit less fun than it should have been. So,
of course.
but it's again, I'm not going to fight for it to stay. But I think like it's one of those games that if PS5s weren't the size of a small van, and one of us had lugged one down, it would have been a great game to throw on around. It would have been great.
A question I wanted to ask,
and Sub-Zero looks like a fucking boss in that game.
I can't remember if it's 2 or 3 Mortal Kombat games we've had now since we've been doing like this Game of the Year event, but it's always a case of like it will make it to the game, like it's usually in at least one person's top 10. But it's usually gone within like the first 2 or 3 entries. And it's kind of the question like, what does a Mortal Kombat game have to do at this point to like crack our top 10?
I think maybe it's that I don't think there's any one of us around the table that's a classic fighting game.
We're not fighting game guys. I think it speaks to how good they are that they make it at all.
I guess if you look at it from that angle, that's
like we're Street Fighter 6 on this list. I thought it was really good, but it didn't make my list.
Like the only fighting games I think maybe in my adult life I would put on a list are like a couple of the Mortal Kombats and the 2 Injustice games. Like they're the only ones I've actually cared to play.
How dare you forget about Dead or Alive? How dare you? All right,
I didn't.
The jiggle physics in that game are they have not aged well, I don't think.
Okay, all right.
This was an early year nomination for me, and I think it immediately got kind of suffocated, and then probably fairly so. I would say Dredge wouldn't.
It's a really cool,
real kind of indie success story. Interesting idea,
definitely.
interesting scale. Love the vibes, love the creepy atmosphere. It nails all of that, and I think the gameplay was really interesting as well. On a quieter year, I might even be fighting for this to last a bit longer, but too many other passion projects.
I think that just had some DLC released recently as well.
Yeah.
So and because that hit over 1 million sales. As you said, like very much an indie success. I guess you could say kind of comparable to like Cult of the Lamb, where it sort of like came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And I don't know exactly what it is about it that kind of people kind of gravitated towards it. Like, there always feels like there's a couple of indie games every year where it's like, did it just get on the Steam front page and everyone was like,
I think we were talking about it earlier that like Q1 was pretty quiet. And it was like the first indie game that had a bit of buzz this year, because I wasn't like tracking Dredge's development and release, but like again, it was the first word of mouth game of this year, I think.
I guess so. Yeah, because Hi-Fi Rush, like everyone was talking about that because it's like, hey, fucking, it's the Evil Within people. And
guess what they've done now? Not Evil Within. Okay, right. Background to me, I love it. It's fun, it's chaos, but F-Zero doesn't get top 3.
No, you're probably right.
We gave it its flowers in multiplayer, I think, as to being a really good game.
But it's just, I do hope that every year or every 2 years, Nintendo just go back to like, and we kind of mentioned about it, like Ice Climbers 99, let's fucking go.
Yeah. Cool Borders 99.
But I do think that
1080-99.
This could possibly, this will possibly be like the best execution of this. Now they might prove me wrong in a year or two's time, but.
Wave Race 99.
Oh, that would be good.
Yeah, get Kawasaki back and forwards.
Yeah, let's go. Perfect Dark 99.
Almost had it.
Yeah.
It's
FIFA 99.
But it's just great that it works. Like, it's a real, like, there's probably a way that they could have done this, and it just was like, nah, this just doesn't shit.
Yeah.
But as soon as you start ping-ponging around, you're like, oh, this is chaos. This is fucking awesome.
Yeah. It's fun, but it's essentially like it feels like I'm denigrating it more than I actually intend to. But it's a mode. Do you know what I mean? It's compared to some of the experiences on this list. It's like it's not got the depth or the breadth.
I mean, you say that, but it has like the kind of exhibition mode, but it then has the sort of timed events every like couple of days, I think, or so. Where it's like, right, you have to do like 5 races and basically survive to the end. And so that has that little bit more of like a challenge to.
Yeah, it's not got nothing. It's just like compared when I look at some of the stuff when I'm trying to separate one half of the table from the other. That's one of the things for me.
But anyway. At the same time, you could also make the argument about the slap in the face that like this is the F-Zero that we're going to get.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was even arguing against myself. Like, it's like if I think about it, like, would I have made the same argument about Portal?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Which is a tiny experience where it's the same thing over and over again, I guess. But it's fucking horrible.
Yeah, but
as
that's like a genre-defining game.
Yeah,
But as with
sure
the other
is.
99 games, this is shit going to be gone at some point as well.
They haven't said, because usually before the other two came out, they said it was timed.
Yeah.
But they haven't with F-Zero.
Okay.
Maybe it's because they don't have any intention of giving another F-Zero game again.
So they can at least say, well, we gave you one. Like,
Yeah, I mean, because you look at the other one, it's like there are other Tetris games out there, and there is like literally fucking Super Mario Brothers on the Switch Online service. So
Sure.
yeah.
Okay, Mark.
I think what have we got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Right.
Do you want to just vote?
This might be early to take a stab at this, but based on like kind of what we said about it already, and then the temperature check on it, I think it is a wonderful game, and I'm very glad that they went in enough of a new direction to give it a new bit of a fresh kind of coat of paint, and I very much look forward to whatever the next 3D entry is, but I don't think Mario Wonder is going to be in the top 3, so
Yeah, I agree.
That feels soon, though.
it does feel
Feels soon. It feels top 5.
but I feel like Mario
think
Wonder.
so?
I feel
think
like Mario,
maybe for me.
Nah, not well,
Maybe.
for you. Okay,
Yeah.
But I
For
feel
us,
like
though, I
I'm
don't
not
think
saying
so.
objective.
Yeah,
we
but
don't do a top 5
I
anyway.
think what it is that Mario Wonder like probably would be for all of us, but we're all probably would say that it'd be somewhere between like 5 and 10, where a lot of these are more like kind of singular passion projects where we probably would want to dig our heels in a little bit more.
Like when I think about like the last time Mario game was on here, if you had tried to do this to Odyssey, I would have
of course.
got up and put this chair
Yeah.
on you, son.
Odyssey is so much better. So.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. That's like so
I'm
like
thinking about replaying Odyssey recently.
I'm
Actually.
replaying it currently. It's
Yeah, really?
still class.
It's a very
good
It's still
game.
really good.
yeah, going for that 700 plus moon
are,
run.
are you playing like
I got 'em all.
legit version, Barry, or?
I don't know what possible implication you're making there, but I will say I am just playing it with a means that has a better D-pad. I will say that.
Okay, Jack.
I can't believe Mario's just gone there. Like no one wants to put up any fight for that or anything.
But like based on like the last 700 hours of recording we've done, I feel like we all really like it. But you really think like, I mean, yeah, you could say it's maybe cut a little bit early, but not making top 3.
I
that's
do
really
think as well, like the kind of chatter around like it's like the best one, it's the most transformative one in Super Mario World.
It's not transformative.
I do feel like it's a smidge overrated. I do have to say that.
I played Mario World within the last year, and that's still one of the best platformers of all time. And Mario Wonder is just a very, very exceptionally crafted one of those. But that, and I'm guessing there's a little bit of the rose-tinted nostalgia glasses, but like Mario World is like that and Link to the Past are these kind of two just seminal, classic, timeless pieces of work. And there are lots of games that come very close in those genres, but I think if Mario World is like a 1A,
it's hard to gauge though. It's hard to gauge in the year it came out. Will it be timeless though? Like I find that a very hard rubric.
Here's the thing. I think probably for a generation of kids right now who are growing up,
it is Mario World to them.
It is their Mario World. It is their first experience of a like. Really
Are we over the Mario Hill, lads?
No. I think another part of it as well is that over the last couple of years, like say 5 to 10 years, you think about games like Meat Boy and Celeste and the Rayman 2D games, and they're like taking platforming games, but like they're the kind of next generational transformative platforming experiences where Wonder is just like a very solid.
I suppose like again, like that doesn't kind of like that kind of still speaks to Jack's point. Like it's a very like where platform games are going for us who have been around platforming games for this long. But this is to another generation, or like, you know, if for some reason a teenager somehow fucking stumbles on this, they're like, you people are insane.
When they get older, they'll realize, oh wait, no, Mario World was 10 times the step up that this one was.
I don't necessarily know that that's true.
Like Garfield Kart is some kid's wake up call to driving games. Do you know what I mean? If he gets there early enough,
damn right.
Yeah,
love Garf Turismo.
I don't know.
God, that nearly caused me to choke there.
I don't know if I can have that Garfield argument, but yeah, look, it's a really good game, and I think lots of kids who are playing it now, it will be a big nostalgia game for them. And you know what? I think if you go back and you play this game in 4 or 5 years' time, you'll be like, that is a really fun platformer. Because it's not that long.
Because there's also like, again, and it's like in my kind of, experience in work, whereas like if I sit somebody now in front of Mario 64 for the first time, I look like a dumb asshole because they're like, this was one of your favorite games of all time. Yeah. Why doesn't the camera work?
No reason. Yeah.
Anyway, is that who's next?
Jack.
It's Jack next.
Oh man, yeah, okay. I'm a little bit shaken by that one. I don't know.
Yeah.
So but then also, I didn't find it in myself. And I don't know if it's because I'm just tired or I don't really need to defend Mario Wonder. I don't think it's, because I do like it a lot. But still,
I think part of it is we know at this point now that like if you really want to bat for something to stay on, it's coming off in a couple of turns time. So why fucking put in the energy?
Well, with some of your games, unfortunately, that has been true. Yes. but I think if there was like enough groundswell support for it, but then if there was that, then I don't think you would have gone after it.
No.
It's no point, is there? I see. I see a game on here that I don't like. I think is quite recent, and I'm not sure how much anyone else other than maybe you got to it, Mark. But Ghostrunner 2.
Ghostrunner 2 kicks so much fucking ass.
I think it's one of those.
I know there's I got no chance of it, but like just. I was obviously very much the high man on the first one, and all I wanted from like a second one of these is just give me that same experience. I don't need that much more to it. I'm good for just another one of these like kind of fusion of that Mirror's Edge parkour but with sword combat, sure. But they went and was like, you know what, you want F-Zero? We'll give you the F-Zero, but we'll do it in this game. And like the bike sections are some of the most like fucking octane adrenaline rushed style driving sections that you're fucking it's one of those things where you've got like the tunnel and you can go upside down on the sides and you're avoiding like kind of walls coming towards you. You have guns and turrets to blast the shit out of enemies, and you come flying out of like the tower. And then the next chapter, you're driving down the side of this tower that's like several miles long, fucking careening down, like wiping out enemies. And it's just like, this is a video games ass style video game. And there's like a bit where you're in like, it's like the lawnmower man when you're in this kind of cyber, network kind of virtual reality environment, and you're doing all of these kind of platforming sections, and you're running up the side of this like giant hologram of a like a robot android, and avoiding obstacles and sliding on rails, and it's as peak like a Mark Robinson game as you can get. The dialogue is absolute bollocks. There is a little bit in there about like
is it neon white level bollocks?
No. I mean, there is nothing to that.
How horny is it?
It's not horny. No.
Does that voice acting?
It does have voice acting, and most of it is trash. But it has a little bit about like AI and the kind of like the consciousness of AI and like choices around that. And
Atomic Heart.
Better than Atomic Heart. It's a top. I'm pretty sure it's a top 5 game for me. I put this on here no full well knowing there was no goddamn way this was getting any further than about where it is. So but it
ran its race.
It's just
Ghost ran its race,
and not even just that as well. It actually like improves on a couple of other areas where like the combat sections are a lot more kind of tight, and a lot more focused. No two kind of environments are the same because they're really smart about like, all right, you've had like this combination of these enemies, but now we're going to give you like we're going to take one and put this other one in there. So you got one enemy that fucking you have to slide under, one that you have to like parry before it slices you in half, and it's just. Yeah, it scratches that itch for me, and people should play it because it is real fucking good.
Okay,
Barry.
I mean, it's obviously no one's going to plumb for Baldur's Gate in any meaningful level, so I think we can just cut it.
I just didn't want to be the one to do it.
I'm sure, like by the time, like by June, I'll finish it and go, damn. I wish I could. I probably would have fought out because I like, as I mentioned earlier at the top of this whole thing, I have really enjoyed what I've played, but I have only played a set amount, and there's just not enough enthusiasm for it, so there's no point leaving it on any longer.
But by mid-January, you will be buried by Sean McGee on this program for that.
I don't think. Well, I think Sean, let the record show. I think I've played the most of that game on here, and I would thump for it if I was a bit further in.
Yeah.
There's certain people here who haven't played it, Sean. So you know how this goes. Remember Fortnite, okay?
Yeah. Constituency of one you're going to.
We're into the top 10 now, by the way.
We are.
Yeah.
All right, let's have a rundown on top 10.
Yeah.
Okay, we've got Alan Wake 2, Cocoon, Hi-Fi Rush, Tears of the Kingdom, Lies of P, Octopath Traveler 2, Pizza Tower, Marvel Spider-Man 2, Star Wars Jedi Survivor, Thirsty Suitors. And I am next. Do I go for the easy one or the hard one?
Go for the hard one. We gotta just do them. You know.
I don't think that amongst the four of us collectively that Lies of P finishes top 3. I like it.
I really
the few hours I've played of it.
I'm so surprised by how much I like it.
Yeah.
Like, it makes me want to play Bloodborne. Think about that statement.
I wonder.
Play it. It's better, but like play it.
I'm sure it is.
Yeah, like I wonder. Like I literally, was it too soon for me after Elden Ring? They're like, I like it. I appreciate the ways in which it's harkening back to this genre of game that now I am able to play. And the ways in which it's trying to do things a little bit differently, rather than just stick to a rote, just be a Soulsborne game. But just, again, taking the temperature of the room, I think people are more passionate about other games on here. I think we'd only be keeping it on to eliminate it in maybe maximum 3 or 4 games time.
Yeah.
As a person who hasn't played this, can I just say that I think conceptually this is one of the most insane things of the year that was actually pulled off really well. Like if someone said to me at the start of the year, I'm going to take the fucking Ancient Tale of Pinocchio and I'm going to make a Soulsborne game out of it, you're going to be like, what? No, fuck you. Why would you do that?
And the post credits, what is it they're teeing up next? Did you hear about the post credits on this game?
What is it like? Snow White and the
Alice in Wonderland.
Alice in Wonderland. Yeah, they're doing Alice in Wonderland next. Yeah.
The thing is as well is like people were really tepid on the demo, and it really seemed
Really?
like
I liked the demo.
Yeah. A lot of people I spoke to about it were very tepid on it, and it really felt like this kind of thing that was just going to just come out and then just fall by the wayside, and that would be it. But it's just. There's a tangible quality, and the thing for me, more than
I think is that the real problem is we're missing the Soulsborne expert.
Yeah. But the thing for me is it really kind of like cemented for me that I actually do enjoy this style of gameplay, but Elden Ring was the wrong environment for me to be playing it in because the open world format, it was just too much for me. The actual kind of more like linear focused style was way more to my liking.
Which is funny because I felt like almost because it's my first one after Elden Ring is like I had the reverse. I'm like I feel boxed in.
I think, and I don't mean this in any kind of pejorative way. I think it's a strength of it. I do think it's an easier Souls game. It is a more accessible Souls game. I think it is.
I didn't die for minutes.
Yeah, it's like you. It's still super challenging, and it is kind of trial by fire because you got some boss fights early on and stuff like that. But I think it is infinitely more accessible, and I think that is not a knock. In an era where everyone's trying to do the Soulsborne thing, I think it's respectable that they seemingly really went out of their way to make it more accessible.
I mean, it definitely does a better stab of it than what was the other? So Wolong was this year?
Wolong,
which I saw on like a couple of people had it on the backlog that maybe potentially looking at it, and then it just dropped off. Yeah,
I will say that my biggest complaint against Lies of P is like, so for the first, I don't know, couple of hours of that game where you're dealing with all of these like clockwork puppeteer type nightmares, like the whole kind of like design of that, I'm fully on board with. When they start introducing the like kind of zombified rage style humanoid creatures, I kind of cared a little bit less for that.
Yeah.
And certainly there's like one
break with the tone kind of.
Yeah, the tone kind of went in a direction that I wasn't. I mean, what could I be prepared for going into this game anyway? But it felt like it had a specific thing it was going for. And then it went off radically in a different direction that I was like, there are other games that kind of do this. And I guess like when it sort of fused the two together and then sort of towards the end, you've got like puppet creatures that have got fucking tentacles coming out of its face, and I was like, all right, this is where I'm starting to draw the line.
I think that is also part of its Souls pedigree, is because like almost all of those games have a shitty swamp or shitty village area town full of cursed monsters.
It's got to go Lovecraft.
It's got to go there somewhat.
Yeah.
I will kind of double down on that and say that my big problem with this game was that everything, the concept is super cool, obviously, dark fantasy, Pinocchio, no problem with that. But once you actually get started listening to the dialogue, reading the notes, so on and so forth, that is the part of the game that is the most, we have Bloodborne at home in a negative way about it. Combat, they nailed it. Challenging, but feels good and really taxes your skills, makes you really think about everything you're doing, and innovates a little bit. Doesn't just copy Souls, does its own thing. The story is so kind of, it sincerely made me appreciate, like, Elden Ring and Souls games, they can be a bit too obtuse, obviously, a little bit too extracted. You're perhaps having to tax your brain a bit too much reading item descriptions, but to me it's worth it because there's so much cool and special and mystical about those games. I disliked pretty much every time anyone was speaking. Those fucking Resident Evil ass notes about, I'm going back to work at the evil puppet factory today. I sure hope my face doesn't get eaten. Page 2. My face got eaten. Gemini, annoying as fuck, Naughty Dog ass bitch on your waist.
Hey, he is nowhere near as bad.
He is.
He's not. I forgot he was there half the time.
Daxter, fucking Jack and Gemini coming soon to PlayStation 5. He was irritating.
One of the things I loved about it, I can't remember if we got to or not, is just that little, in terms of the gameplay, that little mechanic of recharging one of your charges.
That saved me so many times.
It saves you, but it also, what I like about it in terms of like how you then approach the game, it basically baits you into being more aggressive than a lot of, I imagine that,
which is a core Bloodborne thing as well.
Yes, that's what I was gonna say. I imagine for people coming from that maybe aren't the Bloodborne people, that are just the Souls people, that's a challenging adjustment, because those games reward waiting and defending, whereas Bloodborne and this are more foot forward, kind of like just go for it and see what happens.
Bloodborne, what they don't have the same thing, but what they have is when you take damage, you can heal a bit back by striking the enemy really quickly. So you kind of have almost like a fighting game style, like slightly darker red on your health bar, and you can fill that back up somewhat by being aggressive.
He has this to some degree.
That's what we're saying. That's a perfect encapsulation, actually, of how they iterated on some interesting ways where it's very similar to a Souls thing, but with a twist, and we're doing our own twist on it, and it's cool.
And also the crafting of like the handle and the weapons, so you've got like a little bit
actually, for the first couple of hours, I was like not into that. I was like, I'm not going to use this mechanic. I haven't finished it. I'm about halfway through, but for the second 10 hours I played, I was really having fun mixing those things around, getting really stuck in, because I like big stupid weapons. I like the big fucking wrench.
I use the wrench for the whole of that game. As soon as I had that and I got that maxed out, I was like, I'm good.
I love those, but then being able to tweak it a little bit with a different handle that does some other it was that was a really cool mechanic. So Lies of P is great. We probably would have gotten a great Garrett promo on it. I'm sure we would have. But it's super cool. But I don't think I haven't finished it. I want to get back to it, but I don't think it's a passion project for
and
us.
I will say it has a great twist at the end. So it's definitely something I think.
Turns out you, the player, were made of wood all along.
Damn, you just like fall over.
His nose grows inwards,
and it does some really good stuff. Like you go back to crap towards the end, and they do sort of thing where it's like you're in this familiar place, but they completely change it. And there's a real kind of sense of like destruction to the environment. Lies of P is a very, very, pretty my biggest surprise of the year, certainly for me, considering where I was before on like the Bloodborne style type of games. But it's probably not going to have enough to get us to the top 3. Garrett was here, might be a different story. But there we are.
He'd figure out a way to get that third at least.
By not saying anything.
Yeah. So it's you, Mark.
I think
there's one I'm quite surprised is still here.
Probably you can get rid of Octopath now.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to have anybody.
It's a good game.
I like those games. I liked, I think I said it on air. I definitely said it off air, that I preferred the way Live Alive did things.
Yeah.
Where it's the same style, but it's because it's episodic. you're dropping in and out of characters, which Octopath does.
Yep.
But you're dropping in and out of completely different narratives, completely different game mechanics and things like that. And that's what I love about Live Alive.
Yep.
And I want to love Octopath games, but both of them so far I've only quite liked.
Yeah.
And I play enough of them to appreciate them, to like them well enough, and to know that there's a handful of people in my life that I can recommend them to immediately. Hello, Matt Niner.
Yeah.
But without it becoming a top tier thing to me.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I didn't end up finishing it. I started it. I was enjoying it. Was enjoying the different characters and the story. I thought was pretty cool, but I don't. The music is great. Like, this thing looks really good. Like, is the stylistic nature of these games that sort of, you know, weird, like 2.5D sort of almost like put together by handcrafted materials style graphic on it. It's really, really nice. But I don't, again, I think this is still let's upset Garrett section of the podcast here, because I know he would have much more to say on it than I do, and then have much more sort of tenure into the game than I eventually got. But it didn't do enough to convince me that I needed to follow the whole thing through. And there are a lot of games left on this list that did do that. So I can't really say that it's going to go any further for me. And I'm probably the highest person on it here. So
Well, if you're not going to, then
exactly. There's a few games on here that, let me tell you, pretty good.
That's who the JRPG nerds can blame, is you.
Yeah, that's fine. I'll take that. I'll take it. Right on the chin. Oh God, it's me next. Oh God. Okay. Oh man. Yeah, this is going to be a brawl, isn't it? Whatever I go for here, I think we're at that stage now. I think probably the easiest pick. Some may say the coward's pick, just because I feel like I know the reaction won't be as big, and I think that it's not going to be a top 3 game for any of us sat here, is probably Hi-Fi Rush. I
feel like there was a period of the year where it was a lock on.
I'm pretty sure we did the chat, and I was coming in. I was trying to piss all over your "it's gonna be Zelda, guys" thing. I was like, it might not be Zelda right now because Hi-Fi Rush fucking whips. Hi-Fi Rush is phenomenal.
I feel like it's a game where enough of us like it enough that in a different year it could have been the Diplomat's choice for third place.
Absolutely.
And no one would have been mad at it.
There's a couple in those top 3s where I'm like, it could challenge a couple of those.
Totally. And it felt good for me as well as an Evil Within 2 defender to see Tango back on top with a properly great game after obviously Tokyo was a Ghostwire was a misfire. I mean, we talked about it in best looking, best sound. As we mentioned in character, I don't think it would be like one of the best stories, or wouldn't have really won best character, but like really fun ensemble cast, cool moments, cool boss fights.
The rhythm action thing,
the actual core thing you're doing is so good,
unique to this year. Nothing else felt.
And what feels better than when you nail an amazing combo and you get every single beat, and
exactly
when you get a proper like S rank in those fights, not just because you kicked ass and did a high combo, but you also did the timing well, which did not happen often, but when it did happen, I was.
If you're like a budding musician, if you're a kid playing this game, I think it teaches you rhythm as well, because sometimes the way it kind of lays out on the graphic to hit onto the beat, it is just like looking at a musical stave with 4/4 kind of thing, and you get it into your head, right? Hit here, offbeat there, hit here, offbeat there, and that thing is, I think is really good brain training for kids in the rhythmical sense as well. If they were to play this young, I played it a bit older, and I have experienced
just a touch.
Yeah, I have experienced like keeping in time with stuff. But it had been many years since I'd done that, so it was like trying to kind of get that rhythmic side of my brain to kind of come back and repeat. And I get what Mark's point was. I think in another category where you said towards the end of the game when things just started filling the screen and they were coming at you from all directions, you kind of lost a little bit of the rhythmic element to it, which is, I think, a completely fair criticism. But like the early part of the game where you're first getting into that mechanic, I just remember it filling me with so much joy. And yeah, it was the Kickstarter of the year. It was like January, I'm playing this game. This is going to be a good year. It's going to be a good year. I'm feeling really positive about it. And, we've already spoken about the soundtrack, but again, bunch of bands I love. Very, very happy when I was hearing that. Like, say, Joy Formidable, probably the biggest surprise of any soundtrack of the year to hear Joy Formidable on something filled my heart full of joy in a non-formidable way. So, yeah.
One thing I will say though is that like the actual kind of core concept of this rhythm action style, almost kind of hack and slash, so much of that is actually was already done in Crypt of the Necrodancer or Cadence of Hyrule. Obviously, the biggest difference here is this is now in like a third person
action
game. Yeah. And I will say that the kind of translation, because there's a very easy way that you try and do that in a 3D setting and it just doesn't work. And I think that they nail it in terms of the, again, the kind of like world storytelling or the language of communication of like everything is moving in that game on the beat is great. And also just the concept as well of like getting a fucking iPod like smashed into your
Iron Man into you.
Yeah, it's a really like dumb fucking concept, but it works. Like Hi-Fi Rush is... I think it's like an easy lock for all of us as like a top 10 game of the year.
Yeah.
And your arm is basically a guitar, which rocks as well.
Yeah.
Like, come on now.
Heart is an iPod.
Yeah, heart an iPod, arm is a guitar. Oh man, I need to have some surgery.
Okay, who's up?
Wow. Okay, I mean, looking at this, I think there's going to have to be a passion project that's going to have to go here because
I think we're pretty much at that point now.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think that was the last one. That
was the last one where there's like some diplomacy on it.
Because there's going to be resistance from every direction.
Could I go the coward's way out and cut one that I like? But no, I really like that one, so I don't want to do that. Okay. I would say that based on the promos that have been cut on the passion projects that I know are probably going to last a while longer, and my actual experience with this game, which was really good, I don't know if Star Wars is making it.
Oh
no, yeah, I don't think so.
I put about 12 or 13 hours into it, and it is really good. But to me,
it's a fucking great.
It is
game.
Really good. But I also felt like it was in the best way. It was kind of just more of the same for me. Better in almost every category than the first game. But I just didn't see it at Game of the Year. For this year, with the level of games left on this list.
There's probably 3 or 4 I'd come before it, but that's my own personal preference.
Me too, because there's games I didn't even touch here. But then there's kind of like, I think this is one of those ones where in a weird way it's almost hurt by me playing it because I played it and I'm like, yeah, you know what, like that's really cool, but I didn't love it. And
I did really love it. I mean, there's a couple of games. There's maybe 2 games on here that I'd say, like, if I had to make a top 3, would be above it, and it's probably obvious from looking at what's left, what they are. So realistically, if I'm saying it's top 3 for me, but in third, am I going to be able to get all 3 of my favorite games in there when
you'd be doing a great job if you did?
I can see at least 2 of them.
That would be an all-timer.
I can see at least 2 of them that I'm absolutely got no chance cutting whatsoever, then no. But yeah, this is such a great game. It feels so good as a Star Wars fan to have some sort of Star Wars media that I can be proud of.
You've versed for so long.
I can share this with other people and I can be like, hey, go and play this game. Everything's great about it. Like, all the combat is brilliant. One thing we haven't had a chance to speak about, like the free running in this game, like the running up walls and the, jumping off the ledges and like all of the force power stuff that you can use to traverse around, like in the air, the force dash and everything. So much fun. Like the traversal and just moving around in this game is awesome. I feel like
the combat is like, in a good way, is like easier. I feel like I was just having more fun just being a badass Jedi in this game.
The thing that I love about the combat in this is you can play the combat in a few different styles. You can have the single lightsaber, the dual lightsaber. You can, if you just like want to like hack and slash your way through it, you get like the Darth Maul style double-ended lightsaber, and then that's good for like crowd clearing. But then if you're like really good, like if you just came off Elden Ring, and your timing and stuff is shit hot, and you are good on the parry and you are good moving, the holding like the lightsaber like a broadsword. The broadsword.
I went with the broadsword one. It's so cool,
and it hits hard as well. So to me, like in a few boss fights, I used the broadsword style because I knew that if I could get the timing right to dodge, I could use that and I could hit and it would make the game easier. And I think that some of the bosses in this are amazing. Like the first thing that you do when you kind of make it over, as Jedi, you can go in like, there's like a side cave, and then within, you know, maybe 30 seconds of being in there, you fall down like this ramp and you're fighting a Rancor. And anybody that's ever seen Return of the Jedi, like I did when I was a kid, the big fucking ugly, horrible Rancor thing that Luke had to fight in Jabba's palace. I'm fighting a Rancor and I'm like, I love this so much. And I know that that's based off my own love of Star Wars rather than like anything new being done in the game. But it just filled my heart with joy. And there's so many great characters. I've already mentioned Turgle, I've already mentioned Cage. I think Bode is brilliant. I think the timing of his heel turn is perfect in the game. You know, just when you kind of think to yourself that you're kind of working things out. Like the ancient sort of like proto early first generation Jedi that you revive, who becomes like one of the main antagonists of the game, is really interesting. And you find all those temples kind of dotted around Jeddah, which I think is really interesting side quest things to do, because you can find out and learn more about the Jedi in there, and then you unlock different force powers, make things easier and cooler in the game. The skill trees are decent, you know, like you actually see things on the skill trees like 3 or 4 down where you're like excited to get. Okay, I can't wait to get this, because when I get this, I can do this thing and that thing, and you know, like this, and then they're not complicated. There's just like there's like 3 or 4 different things, and then like your different stances that you unlock skills for. That's it, no problem. And it kind of gives you that sense of progression to work your way through the game. It's a really good game, and it's in other years again probably I'm arguing really hard, but if I'm going to look myself in the mirror, and I think this is the stage of the game of the year debates where you really do have to look yourself in the mirror and go like, if the only other guy here who's gone deep in the game is saying I'm gonna happy to cut it, then I gotta let it go. But fucking hell, this game rules. And you know, I'm not saying like Star Wars is back, but it feels like Star Wars is a little bit back.
It gave you the feeling that it could be back.
Yeah, and I this one of those games as well. Like the third, you know, installment in this series, like is a day one purchase and a day one play for me. Like I'm hyped beyond belief to play it.
And it's good we have like a good Star Wars game or Star Wars games, because that Knights of the Old Republic remake is dead.
Yeah, and that's it. And then, you know, you think about Battlefront and like all of the shite games that Star Wars fans have had to put up with, all just using the old assets. And I know, and I know, Barry, like you mentioned the Boba Fett thing, but the best thing about this game is you do have a bit of the old Star Wars sprinkled in, but it's not the main thing. It's like you're almost kind of crossing paths with Darth Vader at one point. You're crossing paths with Boba Fett. They don't last. They're there briefly, and then they move on with the story. And then, to me, I think that probably makes some people feel connected to the wider Star Wars universe, while at the same time experiencing Cal's journey, Cal's story, and his own specific like goals and achievements, and how he's trying to survive in this fucking ridiculously hateful world against the Jedi, as bad as they were at Order 66 and a few of them that are left. And it is really bittersweet what happens with Bode, you know, like he makes the wrong choice, he sides with the wrong person, he's trying to save his daughter. You know, you meet his daughter in his quarters when you track him down, and you have the chat with his daughter. And basically, she's just like, you know, are you going to go after my dad? I'm like, that's really heartbreaking. Because it's like she knows her dad's fucked up. And everything that he's done is just to try and protect her. And then, that final battle. And you're kind of like looking after her on your ship when you go off to face Bode. And I do just think it's that classic sort of Star Wars journey. Yeah. You know, it is very much the sort of Obi-Wan versus Anakin showdown of like, you know, Anakin's missus like going like, oh fuck, you know, you gotta go and take him out, to Obi-Wan, like that kind of whole unsaid conversation they have. And it's similar here, but then there's like a little girl at stake. It does tug at the heartstrings in a way. Anyway, look, I've given it enough now. I really like this game, in case you didn't notice, and it falls on a sword here.
All right, Dave. Down to 6.
We're tough now.
Alan Wake, Cocoon, Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom.
I just gotta go with
Spider-Man 2 and Thirsty.
I got to go with the combination of ranking the games by order I enjoyed them, and also considering the level of and number of people that will try and shout at me. Thirsty Suitors.
Yep. That was the one I thought would go next, and I'm okay with that.
I didn't want to.
No. I'm for it to get. I'm happy at this point. It
beat Jedi.
I don't know if it's
Beat Hi-Fi Rush.
I don't know if it's in my top 5. It's bordering there.
I would have gone last round with it, but I didn't want to because I went for it before.
No, but it's it's my favorite story of the year by far.
Yeah.
And the problem with the game is that like it's got like 3 components to it. It's got the kind of cooking minigame. It has the combat, the JRPG turn-based style combat, and it has the skateboarding section. And like the cooking minigame and the combat, even though they feel kind of limited in some ways, they serve the bigger master, which is the kind of narrative, which I think is the strongest part of the game. And then you got the skateboarding section on the side of it that feels really bolted on, and is definitely by no means like the worst skateboarding game that I've played. But I made this point before that if you're going to put a skateboarding section in the game, we've already had the peak of what can be done as a skateboarding game in 2 different ways, with Tony Hawk's and Skate. Whatever your preference is, fine, whatever. And so if you present a skateboarding section, you gotta fucking, give me something to really sink my teeth into.
Ollie Ollie World is probably the only other I'd chuck in there.
Sure, but I'm talking like that's like a 2D sort of.
Oh, as in like, it's like more of a 3D plane.
Yeah. And it's just not gotten. It's a little bit slow. It's certainly not the most busted like skateboarding thing I've played in the last couple of years. But there are certain parts of the gameplay where it's like probably with a bigger team or just more resources, there could have been a lot more kind of fleshed out.
It's interesting to like lead. Like you're within like 2 minutes of booting up the game, you're doing the skateboarding like they're about to blow your mind, and you're just like.
Yeah. and it does have,
I guess.
And like by far the biggest issue with the game is there are only actually 3 areas in the game. And like for about half of it, you don't really too mind because you're going back and forth between areas because of like the conversations you're having. But you get to that point, you're like, I'm really ready to have like the next area to explore. And it just never fucking comes. And the compensation is that with each of the Evil X fights you have, they take place in like a very kind of specific setting in terms of like the visual backdrop. But it is very much like, all right, I'm in the town center now for like the 12th time, and there's enough there, but it's not that much. And you can make the argument that it adds to like the sleepy town nature of the vibe, where it's like there wouldn't be that. There would just be like the town center, your house, and the kind of rundown amusement park sort of area that's now a skate park. But it's like you kind of would like there to be a few more things, and it doesn't quite get there. So yeah, no, Thirsty Suitors going now is it would have been my next pick, to be perfectly honest. So yeah,
glad we could agree, buddy.
Yeah,
let's see if we continue to agree, because it is your pick next.
Oh boy!
This is the last cut before we get. No, wait, no, I'm wrong. I'm doing my maths wrong.
We got 5.
We got 5 to go. Yeah, 5 into 3. I feel like there's 2 Mark Robinson games on this list.
Yeah, I was actually looking at that going like, I feel
one
like...
of which I think he'll be backed for by Barry, and one of which he'll be backed for by me.
I've played both of these. I've played both the Mark Robinson games on there. Yeah.
I've played both. I only like one.
I like them both. I like everything on this list. I actually love everything on this list. I have to be fair. This is a great final 5. I'm happy with where we're at. So. Yeah.
Man, look, if I was to look at this in terms of I mean, Alan Wake. But if I'm going on like,
I mean, you could go for that. But I could go for it. Is it?
Good.
Do you know
luck.
Do you know what? I have not got the fucking energy to waste my breath on that thing. So the only one legitimately I could go for out of these would be Spider-Man next, which is purely based on like Tears of the Kingdom is a 4 and a 4.5. And Spider-Man is a 4 for me. It's the easiest 4-star rated game I've had this year.
It's like a 9.5 to me. Like I love
it. It's an 8
I'm really high on it because, as I was saying when I was pissing on the story, I did make mention of the fact that I was listening to the podcast of the week and I was so disagreeing with a lot of your criticisms. The idea that they doubles down on the open world's problems from the first game. This game is shorter and more focused, and all that stuff is way better than the first game.
You know what?
And it all leads to
it all does stuff.
Yeah,
I felt like the game was long. I felt like the whole like open world collectathon shite part of it felt way longer.
This is the game where like 50% of players have platinum this
because it's like I'm doing it for the third fucking time of like running around doing these bollock fetch quests.
They're all really good as well. Like the Prowler stuff is really good.
No, he's right. And this is what I wanted to argue about, but I was like, no, I'm going to save my fucking gas for Game of the Year because you're all laying into it, and I'm sat there open mouthed. I'm like, I didn't feel like
you say laying into it. We all said it's a fucking
But the things that you're laying into are things that I really enjoyed.
Even if you park that. Like, even if you park that, and I would be more inclined to agree with Mark, I wouldn't go in it quite as much as Mark as I didn't when we did the podcast about it. And at the same, I think it was kind of you and Garrett were if you want to say, the meanest to it. Yeah. And then I was kind of like, I agree, but not all the way. Because again, the Vision Academy stuff, there's a couple of side quest chains in it.
Yep.
I didn't really enjoy the Mysteriums, the actual playing of them. I enjoyed the aesthetic of them, and I thought the final boss was class.
Yeah,
like the actual Mysterio fight is class.
And then the reveal that it wasn't Quentin, it was like the people working for him that were kind of manipulating him as
ultimately the thing for me comes down to a lot of the stuff we were talking about with the final act. Yeah, and that's where it falls down for me. That's where there is a chasm between my top two and anything else here.
I would say though
it might still be my third. Do you know what I mean? So like, do you know what I mean? I like
it's a top two game for me.
Yeah, I would say that even as the cheerleader of the third act falls apart, I would still be kind of shocked to see it go from
the top 5.
No, yes, that's the conversation we're having. I think it shouldn't be cut at that stage. Can I just also say though, because I feel like there's almost a bit of amnesia about that first game now, and how much, again, going back to the open world thing. Yeah. Remember in the first game, in order to like complete an area, you had to do X amount of the random crimes that counted towards completion, which is so annoying. When you went to like remember the DNA sequencing mini game that you did 500 million times in that first game? Like when you're doing the May Parker Foundation or whatever it is mini games in this one, sometimes you go there and you're doing that DNA sequencing mini games. Yep. Other times you go there and you're flying the drone. Yep. Other times you go there and you get jumped when you go to the table. Like, it's not at all the same thing. Like the comparisons that were being made on the podcast were like, wrong. Oh, it's just like 2018 where you're doing a million of those. It's like, no, it's not like that at all. I wanted to like jump into my podcast app and be like, are you guys mixing up which game you're talking about?
Did you forget like the Prowler sequences, which are incredibly tedious?
Yeah. But they're all so unique. Like all that, like where you have to like be opening things from a particular angle, like it's making use of your Spider-Man powers.
You open a door from the left this time. You open it from above next time.
You can be reductive about anything and say Portal is just going from one part of a room to another part of a room. Because I'm saying that's bullshit, but I'm saying you're saying that like you're reducing the Prowler things to like, if you're being reductive about what they are.
What I want to say is like, and that's kind of, again, that's misrepresenting how I feel about it. It's more kind of closer to the
I didn't even get a chance to explain myself.
But and you can. But what I want to say is, I will concede the point that firstly, they are different side quests from 2018. Yep. That is materially a fact. Right?
They're all unique
and they all lead to cool stuff as well, which makes you want to do. So when you do the first,
hold on, I wasn't finished.
Let Dave go.
I wasn't finished. In spite of the fact that they are different, I still did not have fun doing a lot of them. I was doing them to do them. Oftentimes, again, one of the major problems I had with, one of the big thing that you kind of said back at us at the time was like, you don't have to do them. And I get that you don't have to do all of them, but if you want to unlock one of the big things about that game that's supposed to be fucking incredible, the fast travel, you have to do half of them.
And I would say, even if I concede that, some of the the bee drone
and
ones I didn't like.
If I'm already not having fun, and you're like, to get one of the coolest features of this game, I have to do half of it.
I wouldn't call fast travel one of the coolest features of the game,
but it's one of the. It's up there as the thing they were putting on the box that you know what I mean. In terms of the selling
things
points
about this game, I wouldn't talk about it. The fast travel is incredible, but I don't think that's overstating.
Yeah,
how
I think I
fast
used
travel
it like twice in the end. I just didn't need it.
This game has among the greatest traversal of any game ever. Which I think we're probably underselling as well.
And then they added the wingsuit.
We're only underselling it because it's the same traversal from 2018, which is
people are on drugs.
Barry. What? But, no. But that traversal, it is one of the greatest traversals in a game. Like there is no argument about that. I'm not making that point.
It's way different. Not way different. I won't say it's way different.
It's just adding the wingsuit.
I'm like, you had some of the drugs too, sir.
Significantly improved on a whole other level.
I did the fucking wingsuit in SSX 10 years ago. All right.
Yeah, but the wingsuit
in SSX sucks. Yeah. That was the game that killed SSX.
Yeah, it broke that game. And
you broke that game.
Yeah, because I used the wingsuit and I beat all your times.
I spent 3 days on that fucking demo.
This is why he doesn't like it.
What was that winter sports game with the fucking rad wingsuit? Do you remember that? Like you, me, and maybe 5 people played.
Steep.
Oh, I gave Steep a go. Yeah,
Steep was great, and then no one played it.
But Steep was a ham sandwich of a game.
Well, that's because like the servers were dead within like a month because it was all online.
But like,
look, I where I ultimately sit on this is like I'm not going to be like I liked it a whole bunch still. Yeah. You know what I mean? I do have my reservations are in saying that like if it just didn't make it to the top 3, I wouldn't be flipping the table. If it makes it into the top 3, I wouldn't be flipping the table. If it goes into the top 3 and is at a point ahead of my 1 and 2, table's coming up. You know what I mean? Because there's like I said, there is a chasm between my 1 and 2 and my 3.
Yeah, it's a top 2 game for me. I put it in the top, definitely in the top 3 from what we've got left, because I think I can guess what one of those games that you're talking about is, and I could imagine that I see that in the top 3 with the other 2 games that I have on this list that I like, but then I don't think, I mean, Barry.
For like a list for this podcast, when we consider like keep in mind, but like looking at what's left, you've got Spider-Man, Pizza Tower, Zelda, Cocoon, Alan Wake 2. It's kind of like you don't like Pizza Tower, right?
No, I don't at all.
I like Pizza Tower, but I'm big on Spider-Man. Jack is big on Spider-Man, doesn't care about Pizza Tower. You're Pizza Tower over Spider-Man, I would imagine. Yeah. I mean, I feel like that's probably the debate we're having here.
Yeah. So, Pizza Tower Spider-Man?
Yeah, I think that might. But now, I'm kind of shocked we're talking about Spider-Man not top 3. I felt like when I was playing Spider-Man, all my misgivings about it notwithstanding, when credits were rolling, I was like, well, so I thought we're going Zelda, Spider-Man, and one other game is the way this ends up, and I'm kind of shocked that it's not. But
it still could be.
I mean, it still could be.
It still could be, and I would happily co-sign it if that's where it ends up. But do you know what I mean? Like I again in that thing where you're boxing smart and you're going with what are the ones that give you the feeling.
Yeah,
it's like there are 2 games on this that I will fight tooth and nail for.
I
feel like I don't even need to fight. Even if I wanted to, I don't feel I need to fight for Spider-Man because you guys are doing it.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? I just want to make sure that before whatever decision we make on Spider-Man, like. I want to do that thing that we've done at every step of the way where it is still an excellent game no matter where it finishes in the top 5. And I've now voiced in a number of categories, as Barry has voiced, there are things about it. And whether we agree or disagree on the minigame thing, that seems to come down to one of these matter of taste things. Matter of what your like level of kind of, do you see it as open worlditis? Do you see it as kind of like how bought in are you on all that stuff? And I don't think like we could be here until the sun comes up, and I don't think anyone's gonna shift on that.
I think potentially, I'm not sure that it makes it any easier to some degree, but looking at it here, I got 2 passion projects here at the end, Cocoon and Pizza Tower. And so it might be a case that like one of those has to go, and then we try and decide what the fuck happens with like getting these 4 down to 3. That becomes very difficult for me because this is my 1 and 2, Cocoon and Pizza Tower. And like,
and you also were your 2 passion projects. It's like I will push Cocoon. Like I will be right behind Cocoon up to 3 at the highest.
Oh, I don't expect you to get Cocoon any further than
I imagine you're the same for Pizza Tower. Like that's the one.
Over
you
Spider-
support
3
Mark
at
on.
a push.
Barry,
Yeah.
over Spider-Man though.
But it depends on whether
can
he
I
has-
also just say on Cocoon that it's super cool, but I didn't really like the way it looked, and
Barry, you are not far enough into that game to really like. There
I
are
played
some,
more after I streamed. I
There-
played
but
more.
No, even still, there are some puzzles like in the middle to the late part of that game where you'll be like, "You motherfuckers!"
I was already like that. I was
No,
super impressed
but
with what they did.
Even more so.
But like,
You know what slapped from minute one? Spider-Man. It's just bad.
But anyway, I Cocoon. I just in my I don't know how long, I don't know what percentage through of it I am, but I feel like it's done extremely well to get where it is. I would be, and if I'd be
I
Pizza
think
Tower
it's-
over Cocoon every day of the week.
I think Cocoon, it's worth saying, is genuinely one of the most clever and layered puzzle games I've played in a long time. It is rare to get. I think in 8 years of doing this podcast, or 9 years, it's rare to get a puzzle game both me and Mark agree on. It's usually either a puzzle game you love or I love.
we both like Bad Bros U.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Man, that game don't
But
sing.
usually, I'm thinking more like in the past, like Witness and stuff like that, where like it's either a really obtuse puzzle games appeal to me.
Let's blow this thing wide open and take nothing for granted. I'll put the question out there, and I know the answer is probably yes. Zelda's on this list.
Yes.
Is that fair?
Oh
It's top
yeah,
three.
I mean,
It's top
come
three.
on.
Yeah, I don't think it's
a mortal
I'm
lot.
kind of with you, Mark. We're going like
No, but
yeah.
I'm more on the. I don't think it's a slam dunk that it's like 1 or 2. You know?
I agree. I agree totally. I agree
I
totally.
agree.
If it's
entirely.
third,
Yeah.
that's fine. But I will say this about Zelda, certainly over the course of the year. The more I played that game, the more misgivings I had about
Yes.
certain aspects of it.
Absolutely
And
the opposite.
I remember like the last
Yeah.
time we properly spoke about it on the show, I was talking about like one of my fundamental issues with it is it gives you this like, here are all of these crazy fucking tools and mad contraptions you can make. And then there just isn't enough of applying it to like, here are these puzzles to use that thing for.
No, I'd
There are
say
so
the
many-
limit is your imagination.
Yeah, the limit is-
Let it finish.
There are so many puzzles and shrines where it's like there's actually just a route one, and that's kind of it in terms of when it gives you the parts of the shrines where there's like 12 different ways to skin the cat, or as I've mentioned so many times, the fucking sign guy supporting the mayor, which is actually the best bit of the game
it
because
rocks.
it's purely the
Did we
pure.
not nominate him for character? Oh
Yeah,
my
I know.
god.
Oh,
The, the pure like essence and
You
distillation.
say for a moment of the year, is like, please.
The pure essence of the game can be distilled into that in terms of there is no definitive solution to how you make those signs stay upright. And the fucking complete ridiculous contraption. Like I was building fucking houses to keep that sign up, which is probably like there were 10 minutes wasted that could have taken 30
But
seconds.
that's the thing. It's actually like
But didn't you enjoy that though?
But that's not my issue. Like, yes, I very much enjoyed that.
Right.
I wish the game had more of that.
There was loads of that in the game.
there was-
Unless you chose the easy way every time to solve the
There
I was
puzzle.
with Mark on this.
There were certain things where there was just the one way to do it.
I thought
No, there wasn't.
I don't think I ever encountered one where there was only one
you
way
could
to do
cheese
it.
a
Especially
lot.
there was a couple where I actually did have the moment that you were expressing there where I was like, oh, that was pretty route one. And then literally I'd go on Twitter and I'd see somebody had done again unbelievably, and it was just
Goldberg.
like the limit was that I wasn't thinking like obtusely enough about this that I could have done it either quicker, dumber, or funner. You know,
Sorry, Barry,
I was going to say
No.
my thing on it was that I just had so much like bliss with this game when it was fucking around in the open world, making a house for my horse to drag along behind it.
I mean, you could make a
know,
literal Trojan horse if you wanted to.
making literal Trojan horses. The real sense of exploration, Elden Ring-esque kind of just the wonder of just kind of seeing stuff in that
which
world.
in and of itself was such a miracle because of how tepid you were on Breath of the Wild.
Yeah, I mean that was the thing. It was that like I was like,
there was a while where we were like, is Barry going to be
I
the
was
high
kinda
man
like-
on Zelda by Game of the
when
Year?
Zelda was rolling around, I was like, well, here we go, another fucking Zelda game that's going to get like 99 on Metacritic, and I'm going to play it and be bored. But like this thing blew me away from the first hour. Those core tools they give you are just so insanely cool and great. Capital B, but right. This is my thing on Zelda. I found that all that stuff with the shrines, phenomenal. Had so much fun with them. I don't know if I do disagree with Mark somewhat on that. I thought they were all super challenging, and likewise, I would solve it one way and watch 10 other ways people.
No, but there are plenty of shrines where that was the case.
But
I would say most of them.
Open world fuckery. Do you guys find the test of strength bell?
Yeah.
I wasted like 5 hours and I never even got it. I wasted so long. I then found that all of the like more authored content, for lack of a better term, like the core stuff, to be completely kind of uninteresting. And and this is true of Breath of the Wild as well. I don't really like the art style. I don't like the characters. I'm irritated by every conversation I have in there. I don't like any of that stuff. And also a misgiving part of why I was so negative on Breath of the Wild is that on a fucking bread and butter level, I don't like the combat in these games. And what I think allowed me to get over that briefly was
building a Megazord.
The fuse powers. Yeah. It was like, okay, I'm not into the combat, but who cares? I'm sticking an enemy arm on a boomerang, and I'm
fucking good.
Like, there was hours of fun.
It's the most fucking MacGyver ass shit.
Like when I says, can you fuse anything to anything? Yeah, you can.
And that covered a lot of the Breath of the Wild issues, but only up to a point, because once I had done like one of the temples, and I didn't get close to the end game, but once I was like a good 50-ish hours in, you know, and I will talk about the length of it maybe separately, at a certain point it was like, okay, the novelty of making wacky weapons is wearing off, and now I'm back to just not enjoying this combat. Can I just say though as well, I'm back to not enjoying this combat, and the fuse powers and all that stuff, that also allowed me to get over my misgivings of I found all the weather shit in Breath of the Wild super irritating. You know, when you're just like you're having so much fun exploring and then it starts raining and you're fucked. The fuse powers kind of let me get over that for a while. But then the more I played the game, the more I was like, oh no, I'm being stifled again, and I'm just not. And I think that this is so much better than Breath of the Wild, but the sins of that game are still here, and I ended up kind of having a phenomenal time with it, but I have no desire to kind of go back to it.
And as much as like the whole like reveal and unraveling of the depths is amazing, I wish it was just a little bit more secular. Like,
me too.
That whole thing doesn't need to be the size of Hyrule.
Yes.
You could have perfectly had like, I don't know, say 10 very big sections that cover everything you need to do, but there's so much fucking empty space in the depths that's just like, it's just a waste of fucking time.
There's a lot of bosses in there, though.
No, but there are. But I think you could have done that in a more like kind of condensed fashion that doesn't fucking kill 20 hours.
And the Lionel Coliseum in there is the most hardcore thing in the whole game.
There is so much stuff down there that is amazing. I have no, like, I'm not disputing that.
Yiga Quest is awesome.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It just didn't need to be the size of fucking Hyrule.
And you're talking about, like, it's just funny to, like, say, and after about hour 50, the novelty wore off. Is what I knew he was going to say.
This was another thing I wanted to join your podcast in progress and argue with you about. Because, okay, so like obviously you put a lot of time in, had a great time with it. It's in this top 5 right now. But I also completely, like, I don't think that just because you put that amount of time into that automatically disqualifies any criticisms of it. The point I was also kind of making was that, like, I do think regardless if a game is 2 hours long or 800 hours long, if you don't feel compelled to finish it, that is on the game. That is that you can't say, well, 50 hours, it is still a lot. I'm not discrediting the fun I had with it, but I think truly excellent games, like you even said when like you got to a certain point in Alan Wake and you were like, oh fuck, I'm mainlining this shit into my veins. I never really had that with Zelda, and subsequently I've bounced off it, and I don't know, I probably will go back to it at some stage because I loved it way more than Breath of the Wild, and it was one of my favorite games this year. But I do think it's a knock on the game that you don't feel compelled to go through it, whether it's a 2 hour game or an 800-hour game.
I think one of the things, and you kind of harp on it, is like for me, genuinely, it has one good like main temple. I think that there's 3 temples that are just whatever.
Yeah, I like
I only did the water one when I was bored.
The journeys up to the water and the wind temples, thumbs up. Obviously, like the lightning temple getting there. The lightning temple is, I have not a single complaint about it. The journey up for the wind and the water, thumbs up. The actual like dungeons themselves, man, look, there are a lot of fucking good Zelda dungeons over the years, and if I was to try and do some sort of ranking, 3 of those dungeons, not even making like the top 30 or 40. They're very underwhelming for me. I'm the high man on like the Breath of the Wild animal dungeon things, whatever the fuck they're called. And I think there's an inventiveness to them, and I do appreciate that they went back to a more kind of like traditional. Because the problem they obviously have with dungeons at this point is because of the climbing and the general like traversal has changed, it does make it very difficult to have a traditional
Classic, yeah, kind of.
And
it'd be cheap to do okay, you're coming in here and we're going to take your tools away, so that you have to do it classic style.
So
it would feel like
I fully get that, and I think that the beasts in Breath of the Wild was a way to like approach that from a really different kind of way. And I'd have been, and again, I think it's because just I'm the high man on them, I'd have been happy for them to continue to explore that. But instead, because they try to do like as a traditional dungeon as you can do, and I think one of the ways they did that is obviously you've got 2 up in the fucking sky, so you can't do as much climbing. It feels like it really restricted the kind of like the creativity to them that you could have in that kind of lock and key type of approach that you get from more of a traditional style dungeon. It's just there's 5 of these things, go find them, whatever.
I do wish there was more. I do wish some of the big key story moments, and again, I only did one of the actual dungeons, so maybe but like I remember one of the the towers, which I loved. Oh my god, doing the towers, open up the map. Yeah. Did you come across the one of those that's got like a moat and then a lot of spikes around it?
One of my favorite bits of the game.
And I was just pasting any old random shite together to make a really, really big bridge. And I wish that, and then of course you look it up and people are making slingshots, people are making fucking trampolines, all this sort of stuff. And I just wish like
that goes
the
back
core
to my original
moments
point.
of the game had more of that stuff.
That goes back to my original point, that's like the only tower where it's like, all right, here is a challenge for you. You've got 1,000 different ways to approach it. Where you've got like the one where you just need to burn the branches just to clear the path, or you just need to find a way to get underneath because it's buried under snow. And I guess some of them you want to vary up a little bit, but that is like the only one where
it's
it's
150
like
shrines, most of them.
But the towers
most of them where you have to do exactly what you just said. MacGyver some shit together to solve a puzzle. 150 of them. How many does there need to be for you to do it?
I wish more of the core, like you've got, how many temples are there?
4?
Yeah, so I wish some of the tentpole missions of the game involved that stuff.
Yeah.
But the temple missions of the game are traditional Zelda temples.
Well, whether they are and they're not.
Yeah, but they are.
They are within the, like, I guess they're as close as you get within the, like you said, you can't fully get there without taking things away from the player.
Yeah.
So you're doing you're bridging the gap as best as possible. But I'm definitely not like nearly as low as either of you. I think we all mentioned last night, like the Fire Temple, maybe not so much. Yeah. The rest of them, I love them.
The only reason the Fire Temple
Lighting Temple,
work,
obviously, number one.
The reason the Fire Temple didn't work is kind of because of that. You can't take people's mechanics away. You can cheese like most of the Fire Temple by just building like one of those flying jet plane things or the little jet bikes, and you can just fly to most of the locks to sort that temple out, which makes it bad. I really liked the water temple. I thought like the idea of the, some of the things like, floating up in the bubbles to get things, or like freezing the like stream of the water, or there was the one where you had to like get it pinpoint in the thing that was spinning around really quickly, stuff like that. I thought they were cool. The journey up to the wind temple, like you said, with all of the pirate ships.
Oh, it's incredible. It's unbelievable.
So cool.
Yeah. And I'm at the point where like I include those journeys and quests up as part of what I would consider the temple. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like
I've said this so many times during the year. Like for me, the thing about Tears of the Kingdom is it's about the journey, not the destination.
And that was that was why we placed that's why Breath of the Wild is like, because even like the misgivings you have, like you said, about the core story stuff is absolutely the same with with Breath of the Wild, in as much as there's very little story there, and the story is about the journey and the people you meet and the people you don't meet, and the things you do and the ways you go and what you find that like will be like, you might not find something that 6 months later someone mentions to you, or you're like, you pick up the game for the first time, you go, how did I not fucking see this? And then there's also like long-term storytelling, but like stuff like when I finally got back to Tarrytown.
Yeah.
Like the incredible, like, let's catch up with this town I fucking built on a side quest I could have easily missed in the last game,
I the building your own gaff thing is, I mean, like, obviously we saw all of the mad creativity with the Fuse stuff, and I just think like seeing some of the houses people built in Tarrytown and like the way they position it all and everything,
like
so cool.
The Master Sword quest, which you mentioned earlier on, is just like an iconic, like we mentioned the Lightning Temple. We like the what's the name of the seaside village that's besieged by the moblins? Where it's besieged by pirates, and you basically have to go build your like robotic armada to go and take them down.
I do enjoy seeing like the way you have the forts and the way that people would like fly over top and like drop bombs and barrels and whatnot.
Something we haven't mentioned enough on the show because it didn't make it in the best moment. The fucking Koroks.
I was gonna say
you make one of what was a pretty like humdrum part of Breath of the Wild. Like I was fine with the collectathon nature because I wanted an excuse to stay in the world for long. But you managed to come up with something that they probably could have, like most games would have just, we'll do the same thing again.
Yeah.
But like they just like, what is a way we can turn getting Korok seeds into a weird, dumb adventure thing where you were just like, again, inventing medieval torture devices to transfer these guys across.
Again, the first time you see one of them crucified on your Twitter timeline.
Yeah. Like, I attached one to a makeshift harpoon and put it in a slingshot so that it would dig into the ground where I wanted it to land. This is, and like as you said, Barry, is like this is the category where more so than any other category before, gameplay is an X factor.
Yeah.
And in terms of is there a game I had more fun with for longer this year than Breath of the Wild? No.
I mean, I never stopped laughing at just like getting a horse, getting the thing where you had like the block of wood like tied to it, just fucking sticking a Korok to it and just dragging it for a mile.
Yeah.
Just taking oof every few minutes or so. Always very funny. Always very, very good.
I don't think there's any more like viral game as well where for the first month.
I mean, look, Breath of the Wild still, I see it like a viral tweet every now and again.
Yeah, but literally we got here and we were here for maybe 30 minutes and we got a message from Garrett that was this video of somebody who literally built Godzilla.
It was amazing. And it just felt like for that first couple of months this game was out, everyone was playing it and like everything in my timeline was different retweets of, there were normally accounts on YouTube that are like, top Call of Duty players or top, like proper lads gamer accounts who are having like a daily best builds in Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. Yeah. Like they'd flipped over content to do that.
If you want to try and find a disqualifying factor for Tears of the Kingdom, maybe the thing is like, we really saw the dark side of humanity with how creative they got, like
roasting
destroying
Koroks.
those Koroks.
Yeah.
Like there was one that I saw what they did with moblins that was genuinely chilling. Do you remember the one that was like the person that had like basically a cage?
Yeah.
With a door flap open and they just drove along and scooped up all the moblins. The door blew shut and then flamethrowers came out from all the sides. And that wasn't even the only one like that I saw that day.
I think
and there is a certain extent to which, and like with the trials and things like that you kind of hit on, where it's kind of a weird game. It reminds me, like a game it weirdly reminds me of in a lot of ways is Minecraft.
Yeah.
In as much as like the main limitation on your fun is
what you can think of.
And much like Tears of the Kingdom, the end of Minecraft doesn't fucking matter.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? The core gameplay, I've never even fucking seen the Ender Dragon. Do you know what I mean? That's theoretically what you're supposed to do to end Minecraft.
You know what
I mean?
But they also put less time and effort into it in those games that like. It's not exactly fucking Metal Gear 4, but it's not like there's no story in Tears of the Kingdom. It just is bad is the problem, and all. Where do they get these voice actors to do the limited dialogue there is in these games?
It is kind of astounding for one of Nintendo's kind of core first-party games. That
it's not one of the most important things about Zelda, but I do think it's worth talking about. In this category where there's so much, where the competition is so
intense, going into the voice acting.
I think it's voice acting is class, is my point, and storytelling can be class in games. And I think it's so not a crucial part of Zelda. I'm not going to overhype it, but I think it's worth mentioning in an extremely, extremely tough category that there is games doing phenomenal storytelling this year that Zelda is not.
I will say on the voice acting, I think that seems to be a thing mainly with the English translation, because I did very early in Breath of the Wild switch to Japanese.
If coming out in this market gets Live Alive on the Game of the Year, then coming out in this market is what we talk about for Zelda.
This bigot is back again.
Oh boy.
I mean, so kind of looks like we're at a bit of a standstill in terms of what we cut out of this last fight.
We're like half an hour later.
The thing
I'm glad we at least had the Zelda conversation though, because I wanted to get out because I had my reservations. But I will also say, as I said to you in real time when I was playing it, it's fucking class and I love it 100 times more than Breath of the Wild. Is maybe the next thing we could do then? Is there anything to be said for, do people have pitches for unordered threes that they think are going to be our three?
Okay, do we want to go around?
But do you mean it's in terms of like your own personal one or what you reading?
No, I think we could probably guess what most of ours would be. I would say, what's a pitch for what this podcast top three in no order would be? Is that a fair way to look at it?
Yeah, I could give you mine.
Go.
Right, well, I mean, from my point of view, I see a 1 and 2 of either way around Zelda Alan Wake. That's what I see personally, and then I would want to slot Spider-Man at 3, and then Pizza Tower 4, and maybe Cocoon 5 is the order that I see from what's on here.
I am Alan Wake 1 firmly.
Shocking.
Yeah. Legend Zelda 2 firmly, and then I'm kind of, there's nothing I don't like Pizza Tower, but in terms of my respect for these gentlemen who loved it, if it finishes third, I'm not going to be upset about it. In my personal top 3, it wouldn't be there. I would probably put Spider-Man, maybe Cocoon.
I'm Spider-Man for 3.
I'm honestly thrown for a loop because I'm like, I love Pizza Tower, but I'm shocked we're still talking about it and Spider-Man is on the bubble.
Yeah.
I sincerely did not see that coming.
Same.
Yeah.
I mean, for me,
I think Pizza Tower should go.
Pizza Tower is just so... There's no game that looks like Pizza Tower, and I guarantee you over the next couple of years...
God.
That might be Games Point as well.
Thank God, nothing.
I guarantee you over the next couple of years, you're going to be seeing games that are like aping that kind of thing.
Don't fucking threaten me.
And I don't know. I'm just so it's a platformer, but it's not like a conventional platform. Like to go fuck it, Wario Land 4. That's what we're going to use as like the kind of core concept, but also expand on that. And there's such an inventiveness and creativeness to that thing that like I'd say Tears of the Kingdom comes closest in terms of that. But Pizza Tower, look, of course it's going to scratch all of my itches.
The idea that you would say that like that Pizza Tower is more creative than Zelda.
No, I'd say it's the closest.
The creativity on the design side, whereas the creativity on the design side with Zelda is giving you the tools to be creative, which in and of itself is incredibly creative.
Exactly.
But it depends on what you value higher in creativity.
It's funny because you look at like Pizza Tower's like trailer on Steam or whatever, and you're like, oh, they made a Wario, and then you play it's like a Wario, but also the first good Sonic game also, and also there's a level where you're playing golf, and sometimes you have a gun. Do you know what I mean? It's like it's so off the reservation in lots of great ways.
And the fucking Five Nights at Freddy's whole fucking nonsense.
God, yeah, like the first good Sonic game and the first good Five Nights at Freddy's game, all contained within Pizza Tower. And you do give the final boss a big pile driver off the top of the tower at the end,
and it's a giant pizza. So
that is cool.
I feel like we're like no closer after that top 3 exercise.
Well, no, I think Pizza Tower is going.
But what I was going to say is, it seems to me that it's pretty obvious that it's Alan Wake and Zelda, our top 2.
Our locks.
And I suppose we're duking it out then, Cocoon, Pizza Tower. But I guess...
But Pizza Tower over Spider-Man, Barry? Look, if you look me in the eye right now and you say Pizza Tower over Spider-Man, I will drop Spider-Man. I would
have to go Spider-Man. Because I tell you, one thing we resolved it before we got to that point. One thing I was going to say in best looking about Pizza Tower, that sometimes the readability on like a really basic game level was not great. And even though I just said it's the first good Sonic game, sometimes have the Sonic thing of I'm going 100 million miles an hour and I got hit by a thing. And it's like on a really basic level, I was like, what was I supposed to do?
But it's also less punishing.
It is because you basically can't die. Yeah, so that is true.
And I think that was kind of there by design. Yeah, it's very much about the you're getting the high score rank sort of thing.
I am hair splitting a bit, but yeah, I did also think some of the readability in terms of who's friendly, who's an enemy, and what's like a background NPC was a little bit unclear sometimes because they're all just weird anthropomorphic foods and stuff like that.
Yeah.
This is getting into hair splitting territory. I Pizza Tower is phenomenal, and I absolutely loved it as much as Mark. I absolutely adored it. But knowing that there's a bit more of a consensus for Spider-Man 2, and I also loved Spider-Man 2, I feel like I would take Spider-Man over Pizza Tower. Warts and all with Spider-Man,
Which then feels like it's Wake Zelda Spider-Man.
I mean, if Pizza Tower goes, then I'm digging my heels on Cocoon and I'm not moving. So
right, well then I think the three of us vote for number 3 on that.
As in,
which of Cocoon and Spider-Man makes it?
Makes it number 3. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Because for me, it comes down to, and this is very kind of broad statements, but this is where we are now. Another very good one of those against like one of the best puzzle games I've played in years.
Yeah.
And like when you start playing Cocoon, the first time you come across the orb and you realize, hey, within this orb is like another world, and you go in there and you're like, all right, that's really fucking cool. Wonder where they're going to go with that. And then by the time you get towards the end of the game, you've got 4 orbs that all have their own unique ability that you use in the world that you're in. And you're like, all right, I'm going to place this orb within this orb, and then I have to come back out, get that orb, put this in that orb, put it in a specific point, because that's going to like change what I do over here. Yeah. And it could so easily be like overwhelming about like the kind of point A to point B to point C.
It's so easy to get lost in, because as well it's a game that relies on non-verbal communication.
Yes.
To explain that without actually explaining it.
And it's a one-button game, which is insane. And it works so well despite being a one-button game.
But the thing about what makes it all work is that you're never like more than a couple of paces away from the solution is always there in front of you. It always makes sure to like, all right, you've unlocked this bit, you've solved this part, you're on to the next bit. Now you're gated, and like the next part that you have to do is within this area here, or maybe you have to go inside an orb. And it's one of the most kind of elegantly designed games to non-verbally communicate what you're doing at all times. And that's very much like you can see coming from like Limbo and Inside, that team being able to do that kind of non-verbal communication about what you need to do. But for a puzzle game specifically to explain what you need to do without communication is incredible.
Yeah.
And there's a bit where, so you have this little kind of like siren beacon little creature that follows you that you have to use to unlock a gate. But you have these kind of like beams, and you can cross it fine. But if the little thing crosses it, it gets captured and goes somewhere like not too far away, and you have to unlock it and figure out how to get around it. And there's a bit, and it took me forever to figure out what the fuck do I do? And it was just a simple case of like, you have to trap it in the cocoon thing, put that inside an orb in a different orb, then take that orb, go into the world where the beams are, and just literally just carry the orb across while the creature is like trapped in the orb inside. And I was there for like 45 minutes, and it's one of those, that's such an obvious solution to it, but it's not there in front of you, and you need to fucking like think about what are the things in front of you, because again, everything is in front of you that you need, and there's not actually that many moving parts to it. And again, by the time you get to the end where you've got like these 4 galaxies and how they all kind of interlock, and there's a bit where you have to like, you have like a projectile beam that you're firing that kind of like changes the platform or something, and like you have to face the orb in a particular direction in one world, that when the orb the beam fires into that orb, it's then going to continue firing inside that world, and then you have to like place other things around, and it's just it's like the best puzzle game since Portal for me.
Wow.
It's. I think there's a case to be made for Cocoon here. I think for a couple of reasons. First of all, I think Mark's made a good case for it. You played it.
I liked it.
I admittedly only played about 2 hours of it, but I really liked it, and I'm already seeing shades of what Mark is talking about. And it is for a game where your tools that you're using are also levels you can jump in and out of. It's shockingly intuitive to keep track of things. I think there's a case to be said for Alan Wake, Zelda, Cocoon, and we can debate the order later, because I think Passion Project, Mark made a good case. Also good to have an original thing on here, in a year full of big sequels. I would hate to see Spider-Man 2 go, but it's just missing the cut of one of the best years for games, ever. I think Alan Wake, Cocoon, Zelda is a fair top 3 IMO.
I could go for that.
Even realistically, if it was my 3, it wouldn't. I don't know if I would personally pick Cocoon over Spider-Man, but
this is why this is what I want to have the vote or like the kind of discussion of like between us.
Yeah, of course.
Because I think Spider-Man would be in my top 3. It's my second favorite game of the year to put my cards on the table, and I wasn't expecting it to be.
Neither was I. Like I said, but
I was expecting it to be good.
I came in on Spider-Man 2, and I was like, half me expects it to miss this close, and half me expects it to be in. You know what I mean? And it was kind of a thing where, as I was coming to it, like I said, because I'm really passionate about the other 2 games that have already made it in, I was kind of, even though I would have a slight edge towards one of them, I was kind of happy to see how the cards fell.
Yep.
I will vote, like I won't abstain or anything like that. And I think it's kind of what we have to talk about it until we agree what goes in, because we're not going to go to a vote for third, especially because if we go to a vote for third, Spider-Man will win. Yeah. Like, and I'm not saying let's not go to a vote because Spider-Man will win. I just say there's no, it's a farce to say we'll go to the vote because just people haven't played Cocoon. Yeah. Like, people haven't played Cocoon.
Yeah, which is it would be unfair. Yeah, fair play.
So do we want to do we're all acknowledging that it's Zelda Wake in the top 2. In the top 2.
Yeah.
And we're duking it out for third here. So are we going to go around and vote?
Sure, if you want. Yeah.
Right. I started this round. So I will go first. I will say Cocoon.
Shock you where I am on this.
I will Pete's Tower.
Pete's Tower is great. Look, Cocoon is my game of the year, so Cocoon.
Yep.
And it's done better than my game of the year last year, so I guess that's progress.
Like Spider-Man 2 for me. Yep.
It sounded like the last 5+ minutes has sounded like you're going Cocoon.
Yeah. I mean,
as hard as it is for you to wield the axe,
it's really tough because Spider-Man 2 is a really fucking good
I think
game.
You're going to feel this way either way, but I think your heart says Cocoon at this point.
I feel like Barry's going more with his head on Cocoon just because I think
But I always want to give credence to the case that was made as well, and I think Mark has made a great case for Cocoon. I also like the idea of.
And if you look at the history of our third place finish as well, there's a lot of passion projects on that list.
Platoon and
super hot for me.
I've also been a lot smarter this year compared to last year about being aggressive.
Damn right, I was right about super hot. I'll tell you, son of a bitch.
Look, I'm gonna be very democratic because I feel like Barry doesn't want to put a bullet in the back of Spider-Man.
I absolutely accept the
Boondock Saints style and both put a bullet in.
The duty of the vote caster here, and I will put my stamp on it. I would say Cocoon.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. And I just because it mainly,
and I'm fine with that.
No, but I think I could kind of see the way it was going anyway. But I just think it's.
But again, none of this is to say that we all like Spider-Man. Yeah, it is a great game. I want that third one. I will play that third one.
The thing that's been said most about Spider-Man on Link to the Cast has been, but it's a great game.
The funny thing is, there's a.
We sound like we hate it.
But
half
also,
the time.
I think as well, it's something to be said for we have over the last couple of years, particularly last year, there's been a real kind of burnout and fatigue on the AAA style of game. Yeah. And Spider-Man 2 does have some trappings of that, but it's able to power through so much because it's just all of the core stuff is still just it's just really fun.
Everything else is nailed so well that you could almost forgive it for some of it because there's a few things in
which is kind of almost word for word what I'd say about Zelda as well. The stuff that people might have misgivings about, it nails so much so well. It's so fun.
And the difference between Spider-Man and Zelda for me is that I can see a few of the knockbacks on Spider-Man and I can kind of take them on the chin, but any of the knockbacks that I've heard about Zelda are things that I just fundamentally disagree with on every level. But if someone's going to say to me, yes, Mary Jane looks like some sort of weird Richter's grin, evil, strange person, or
Muppet Peter.
Yeah, or there's one or two of the fetch quests where you're like, could it this a bit long, maybe? Even though I enjoyed the vast majority of them.
And not one single side quest turns out to be the Yiga clan.
Yeah, that's true.
I would have lost.
I tell you what, games going forward, like Frog Fractions 3 is going to have the Yiga Clan.
Nintendo could make hay licensing the Yiga Clan to other open world games. I will play every open world game just for when it happens.
I agree.
Oh man,
there is a parallel timeline where Spider-Man doesn't have the few misgivings I have about that final act, where I'm sitting here and saying you can remove Spider-Man over my cold dead body.
You're gonna remove me from this building, sir.
Because the first 70% of that, I was like, this is smoking everything else that came out this year, and I defended its open world stuff there earlier, and I loved it, but it's really hard for me to get as a guy who does love a good story in a game. It's hard for me to really fight for it over a passion project like Cocoon when I felt a bit ho-hum on the ending,
Yep. Jack, you should play Cocoon. It's on Game Pass. It's really good.
Look, I saw some of it. I watched some of it. I really liked the sort of zooming into the orb stuff. It was very, very cool. Spider. I looking at this game and seeing the mechanics and the way it played and listening to the explanations, I know I would like this game, but I know I would prefer Spider-Man to this game.
Sure. Yeah, of course.
But to compare the two of them is actually it's madness, which is why this stuff is so difficult when we get to this point. And I think it's a perfect, like you say, it's a perfect link to the cast number 3 because it represents something a little bit different, and that tends to have been this spot. And to just put another AAA game in here, as much as I love it, might have felt wrong.
So Spider-Man's officially off. Pizza Terror's officially off. We didn't say that out loud, but Pizza Terror's officially off. Which leaves our final 3 of Wake, Zelda, and Cocoon.
Yeah. Now, with these 3 locked in, I just want to say everything that I said earlier about Zelda and its misgivings, cancel all that. Number 1, good for me. Cool. Thanks. Cheers. Bye.
No.
Welcome to the team. Right here, son. Look.
Literally 2 minutes ago, Cocoon's my number 1.
Cheers, bud.
Yeah, no, you said Cocoon was your number 1.
Yeah,
yeah, but it's not going to get to number 1. It's third. We all know it's third.
You stuck to your guns on thirsty suitors, but Cocoon... Okay, Spider-Man's back on. He's not sticking by Cocoon. Spider-Man back on.
Thank you.
All right.
I think Wake, Zelda, Cocoon is the order.
I think so as well.
I think Zelda, Wake, Cocoon is the order.
That works for me.
You guys are just so missing out on this. I know he wouldn't like it if he actually played it. I think he may.
Can I just say one thing about Alan Wake?
I really wouldn't.
And again, I've watched it, and it just looks horrifyingly annoying to me that you have to flash a stupid fucking light stick at something before you can attack it. That looks fucking annoying.
I don't know.
It's a weapon,
it's a weapon. Yeah, but it looks like a shit weapon that doesn't look like any fun to actually use.
This is like what you're imagining the combat is like for the game you haven't actually played, though.
Yeah.
No, it's what I've watched people play on.
Come on. I can tell you from 100 hours across the 2 most recent Zelda games that I don't like that combat based on 100 hours of playing it.
Yeah, so...
What?
Yeah, but how can you can't do that when you've just done that to him.
You're
you can't do
that. The mechanics of the spotlight, that's gameplay feel in the hand that you don't know.
Yeah.
Like if you said I watched a playthrough of it and I thought the story was garbage, I would disagree with you, but I would at least it's like you can pick that up from it. You can't tell how that mechanic feels from gameplay. It's no different from any other game where you're switching between like armor piercing rounds to normal rounds to finish them off. It's a shield mechanic. There's not.
Yeah, that would annoy me as well.
But that's a perfectly I'm sure there's probably a million examples of things like that.
And I don't like them. I'm just saying that.
All games must have one weapon.
Yeah, I don't understand.
No
that
one's saying that.
No, but it is a weapon. It is carried like a weapon. It is used like a weapon. So you're saying you shouldn't have it.
No,
it makes it.
I'm just saying, you're talking about like a mechanic, like it's something other than just a weapon. It's just a weapon. It's not a. It's. There's nothing beyond. It's not like There's not a mechanical thing you're doing there other than attacking. Do you know what I mean? It's just an attack.
Yeah, it just doesn't look good to me. I'm sorry, but again, you're right. I haven't played it, so
I don't think that's. I
don't think I watched it.
Yeah, but I guess
You can't.
If I'd watched it and I thought it looked good, it would have made me want to play it more.
But it could have looked good and felt bad. Like you can't criticize a gameplay mechanic having not done the gameplay.
I'm just saying I don't like the way that looks. Look, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you can tell me that I'm wrong.
That's what we're saying. I think.
Yeah, I don't know.
In the strongest possible terms.
I think there's more depth in Lies of P's combat than Spider-Man's, but which one's better to look at? Spider-Man's. You know what I mean? I don't think that's a fair way of grading a gameplay mechanic. I don't think.
Yeah.
So yeah. I mean. I mean, the cases have been made for both Alan Wake and Zelda at this stage. I don't know how, because I know nobody wants to just go to the vote. I know we've done that enough.
I think
and if you look at where we ended up, like, it's the best moment of the year. It's the best story of the year. It's got the best character of the year. It's got the best music of the year. What are we fucking talking about here?
I also
sorry.
I fundamentally disagree with all of those.
Sorry.
You didn't listen to the soundtrack or play the character or know the character. You're disagreeing with it.
Some of those are right.
You are asking me to talk about like playing or enjoying a horror-themed Twin Peaks style game made by the team that made Control.
Yes, but
I do not like any of those things.
And I get where you're coming from, but you can't say you disagree with the picks when you don't. But you didn't play the thing. So
exactly.
I'm agreeing that you. I wouldn't expect you to play a thing you know you wouldn't like. But saying you disagree with the picks is different because you don't know the content that won.
Of course I can, because they're the things that I wanted to pick that would win.
But you don't. But I'm saying you don't know the Alan Wake content that did win.
Well, no, but like I listened to, like I watched the best moment, and obviously, yes, context is missing for a lot of that. But
no, but the best moment was fucking cool though. Like you can't deny that it was cool. I don't know if I would have given it like some of the other categories, because there were things I really liked in the other categories that I would have wanted to win. But then,
also, I'm always more art direction than fidelity, and I understand that like Alan Wake has like elements of both. It
again, as Barry said, like arguably some of the greatest art direction in the history of the medium.
Moreover, the thing is, and like I can piss around and try and wind you guys up by saying things about this game, which I will stop doing. I will, because I can see the level of emotion over that side of the room, and we are perfectly positioned for these conversations.
And that is like the thing again.
I don't want to.
It is surreal for me to sit here as well and actively root against a Zelda game. Me rooting against Zelda for Game of the Year. Think what that bar is.
Here's the thing, right?
For me, like most years, I would vote a mediocre Zelda game as Game of the Year sooner than most other games because I love it so much.
I am looking at.
I don't even like Alan Wake 1. Right. You know what I mean? Like you know what I mean? And I was never a Max Payne guy. I don't like Quantum Break. Control, and I get totally. I'm not going to try win you over on Control. That ship has long since sailed.
I gave you your copy back, right?
Yes, you did. Yeah, because I was able to get the deluxe edition.
All right. After he shat all over it.
Yeah.
But like, did that
Control that.
But here's the thing, right? I'm looking at the previous winners of this award, and I'm looking at all of the games. I'm looking at the other games in here, and to me, if I had to make a top 3 of every single one of the games that I can see on this list, Tears of the Kingdom is in that for me. That's how much I love Tears of the Kingdom. It's fucking 10 out of 10 for me. I spent like 175 hours in this game. I loved every minute of it.
I tried to do comparisons.
I love every minute.
I tried to do comparisons with these two in my head as we're talking, and I look at like
it's hard
because I said with the Remedy games not comparisons between the other between each of them, but comparisons with them with the legacy they followed, right? And like I said, I can't really compare Alan Wake 2 to even any other Remedy game because even the other Alan Wake game is not the same game, right? So I look at it in terms of survival horror, which is a genre I have had such a passion for, like my entire time playing video games. This is well known about me. This is not. These are not facts I am breaking here. It is one of the greatest survival horror games ever made.
Sure, I'm sure.
Tears of the Kingdom isn't even in my top 3 Zelda games.
Oh, it's number 1 for me. Like it's my favorite Zelda game I've ever played.
No. I think I have Link to the Past, Ocarina, Majora's Mask, maybe.
Oh, you're a Majora guy. Wow.
Yeah.
Hot takes. You
wonder why we're friends. You wonder why we're friends.
Hot takes.
You want to talk about my favorite game of all time? Let's have that conversation.
Yeah. So like when I compare something that's and it's tough again because like it's hard to do direct comparisons between the two. So I am left with that as a try to separate the two from each other. Okay. When I talk about something that's the best in an entire genre,
and to that point, like I think it's better than RE4 either version.
Can I just say? I'd have been so fascinated what would have happened if Garrett was here.
Yeah.
I think we would have been outnumbered on almost every single category because he hasn't played it, has he? He would hate it.
Yeah, he hasn't played it.
He would not like it at all.
But this is the thing, like, Gary, you never know.
I shouldn't say that with conviction, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
You'd be sat here now and you'd be like, wait, we cut
it. It is maybe because you think he'll hate it that it would be his number 1.
I think I would probably say he'd probably go Zelda. I would think so.
I would think so as well. Yeah, I would
but
think so
also
as well.
like you never know like what would have made it to the top 3 with Garrett here.
I still think, I still think Zelda would have made it to the
the
top
Lies of
3.
P factor would be
Honestly, if Garrett was here, the bigger issue would have been the third game. I think Alan Wake 2 and
if we had tried to do some backroom deal to get Lies of P into the top 3 so he'd knife Zelda, he might. Do you know what I mean? Like that's like the dynamic of a fifth person. We never know how it would have played out because we might get his personal top 3, but it won't.
Yeah, so like based on what you said, I think like to me, I'm sat here and I cut my promo on how I feel about Final Fantasy now. And you're going to ask Mark, in school, I was always a Final Fantasy over Zelda, and that always became the argument between us, wasn't it? It was like...
We were such petty bitches in school. We really were.
We were, but it was like...
Him just like... fair. But him's like, oh yeah, Ocarina of Time, whatever. Final Fantasy 7, who gives a shit about
Do you think we waves a shield around? What the fuck kind of mechanic is that? Get it out of here.
You can't
Play the flute.
You can't even summon a fucking Ifrit to come down.
Fucking giant sword. What's he overcompensated for? Come on now.
Exactly.
Fuck me.
Yeah, come on, Cloud.
Like Sephiroth, just fucking mum.
Get your Buster Sword out. Yeah, come on.
Anyway.
Right, but I'm sat here and I'm like, I have completely done a 180 on these 2 game series, and I am now fucking bought in as a Zelda guy over Final Fantasy.
Well, I'll tell you what, they will hurt you at some point, all right?
And like I said, I'm the guy who's sitting here, like I'm to the point where like I've always said that like if I ever get a tattoo, like the thing that stopped me from so long from getting a tattoo is like I'm so like, what if the thing I get tattooed I won't? What if the thing I get a tattoo of I won't be into?
Yeah,
in X amount of years. The one thing I am absolutely sure of.
Harry Potter tattoo, Dave.
My first tattoo would be a Triforce. Like that's how in on Zelda I've been. As long as I can remember playing games, I've had Zelda with me. It is like
I think we're fairly confident Link will never turn out to be a turf. Which should be all right.
I mean, one would hope.
He's too androgynous.
So like in as much as you've done the 180, I haven't done the 180 in saying that I don't like Tears of the Kingdom. I love it, and it was until literally about 6 weeks ago my lock for Game of the Year, and I felt like I was going to have to come in here with riot shields on to get it into the top 3.
Because I think it was always getting in.
I don't know. I just got a vibe that like maybe other passion projects might have like.
Here's the thing.
I've had this worry about it, but anyway, that's not that's not the point of what I'm saying. The point is what I'm saying is like again, it's that
in his top 3.
How far? It speaks to me for what a special, unbelievable experience Alan Wake is that I would ever like. There's almost nothing in any year we've done that would make me vote against a Zelda game this good.
Yeah, and it's funny because we talked about the survival horror-ish of it, and it's better than Harry 4. It's one of the best ever, and it nails that kind of just shitting your pants, 3 bullets left in your gun.
I don't know if I felt this way about survival horror since Silent Hill 2.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, it nails that, but the thing is, so it nails that experience, but that is also a very known experience, and while it's not gameplay-wise as innovative as Tears of the Kingdom, I would also bring back the things we were talking about, which we folded into best looking somewhat, the shifting levels and the moving light around levels, and how it kind of uses some Spider-Man 2-esque fast loading to shift level geometry and do some weird puzzle solving in kind of impossible space. Like the game is also it is I mean, it's a super me game because it's a extremely narrative focused, character driven, scary, bleeding edge single player experience, but it's also no slouch in the gameplay department, both in terms of how fun it is, but also in terms of how it is innovating. Not on the level of Tears of the Kingdom, but I will say it is even doing some of that in terms of making you using mechanics to make you go, oh, I was not expecting this from this otherwise like really fun in the shadows, spooky, I have 2 bullets left horror shooter. You're also doing weird impossible space puzzle solving as well. Like
you're doing detective work.
You're doing detective work. It's and again, like I said, I know it's not an important part of Zelda. I don't want to knock Zelda too much for it, but it's also like when it comes to how cool the story and the world building is, it's super serving you in an area that Zelda isn't, which I think is worth considering.
I think one thing to consider with Zelda, because we've had this conversation since we started doing this, anytime that you get, and you know, Spider-Man is a perfect example. And I think about like Hitman 2 and 3 as well. Anytime you have like one of these games that like the first entry comes in and we're like, all right, it's in the top 3, stone lock, no complaints whatsoever. And then the sequel comes along and it's either it's pretty good, but it's another one of those, or it's, you know, it's disappointing, whatever the case may be. Tears of the Kingdom feels like the first one of those we've had where it's like, it's the sequel to one of, you know, the greatest games of all time, like one of the highest celebrated games of all time.
And it's better.
And like it came along and there was no real kind of concerns or hesitations about, you know, would this make the top 3? Like at no point have I thought during this that it's got the sequelitis issue of, you know, it's just like, you just
say it, Mark, it's better.
It is better.
It is better than Breath of the Wild. I mean, Breath of the Wild is such a mood piece compared to Tears of the Kingdom. Sure. Just like, oh, fuck it. Let's just take Gary's mod and apply it to fucking Breath of the Wild, you know? That is literally what it is.
That is actually a great comp. Yeah.
And like the balls on Nintendo, well, not even the balls on Nintendo, because they must have seen, and we all had this conversation as well about like, you know, Nintendo seeing on Twitter how people were just fucking about with Breath of the Wild. And they went, all right, let's go with that angle then. We'll take this world, we'll take a lot of what's already there of Breath of the Wild, but we'll just give you just all of these fucking nonsense tools to play with and just let them fucking go mental with it. And if they crucify Korok, well, you know, what are we going to do? Going to ban their Twitter account? Nah, I guess not.
Nope.
I do think there's something to be said for that, where it's the first one of those, like, the big sequel where there was no real hesitation about, for me at least, about it making a top 3 or not based on, like, it's just another one of those. Because it's not. It is more than that.
It's more. It's deeper. It's better. It's just...
But then also, you want to talk about sequels that are more, better, and deeper than the original.
But also, so many people I know do not like the original Alan Wake. It's
I think to Mark's point, it's about that first one was revered. Referring to Breath of the Wild was revered. And it's very tough to be the second of a revered series. And this one, you know, because when I've been talking to people about this, the thing I've often been saying about this isn't the sequel to Alan Wake. This is Remedy's follow up to Control. That is that's the thing that's special about it.
Don't say that to Mark.
I think there's been some tremendous promos cut, but I don't see a resolution other than going to the poll because nobody's shifting. Because I think you guys haven't played Alan Wake, and we're not moving off Alan Wake. So I think we're going to have to trust it to the people.
Like, I love Tears of the Kingdom. I think it's fucking insane that it's not Alan Wake.
Yeah, I know. I mean, because and like I'm saying,
especially
I think
after
it's insane. It's Zelda,
everything that's happened, and to go to tiebreaker for Game of the Year as well.
My thing as well is just like I've played 60 hours of Zelda, and I have a laundry list of things I just don't like about it. You know what I mean? It's like I just don't like that combat, and that is not. It's one thing for me to say, Alan Wake super serves me on a story, whereas Zelda doesn't. Because you're like, well, not important for Zelda. Totally fair. A lot of combat in Zelda, and I don't like the way it feels. On a really, really basic, fundamental second to second of the gameplay, I don't like the way the combat feels. There's
so many approaches to the combat. Like, you don't.
Yeah, of course. And like that's what I said earlier, is that for the first dozens of hours, I was kind of alleviated of my complaints. But it's a big ass game, and I was diving deeper into it. And the more I came into it, the more I was just kind of like, no matter which way I approach this, no matter how wacky my weapon is, on a really basic meat and potatoes, the swinging, the dodging, the timing, the feel in your hand, I don't like the way the combat feels.
Just set up a big bank of fucking laser boys.
But this thing, I did a bunch of that stuff, and I loved it. But like, I just, you know,
you can do so many, like, because you can approach everything in your own unique way. You don't have to just swing, dodge.
But also, I'm not for every goblin I come across, I'm not going to build, you know, a Zord. You know what I mean? I'll do a bunch of that stuff, cool, but like for every little camp I stumble across, I'm not gonna reinvent the wheel, literally.
Something I kind of, as well, that I feel weird about if we go to the poll is that I look back on what we said right when we got to this tree, and we all put our cards on the table, and like, are we looking at a situation where we have one game that's two people's number one game that's one person's number one, and another game that's one person's number one?
Yeah.
And we're realistically in a situation where potentially we will award Game of the Year to something that was one person's number one.
Yeah, I think that is a fair way to look at it.
Like that, I think in previous years we come down on the side of.
If I did this argument to you would reject it.
I know, but here's the thing: like,
I would like if the option is that or the poll, like after everything that's happened.
3. That's it. That hasn't changed. I can't do anything about that now. So I have to pick between one of these two games. I don't have a choice.
But you can also see Dave's point, though.
No, but I don't, because I have to pick between one of these two.
But no, we have to reach a consensus on what the Game of the Year is. That's what we have to reach.
You don't have to pick. You have to reach a consensus.
Yeah, and my my consensus is I would out of these two now. I would
consensus.
pick
You don't
Zelda.
have a personal consensus.
Yeah,
Of course I do.
No, consensus is the average of everybody.
But then if
But
I
there's
went-
4 of us,
yeah.
and it's 50-50.
And if I
No,
went
it
back,
was
I'd
50,
include-
25, 25.
But there's also, as I said, when I very graciously voted for Cocoon to be in number 3, you can
Same.
be compelled by the case. And do you not see where Dave's coming from? That it's mine and his number 1, and Zelda is not your number 1. Do you get, because realistically it's between Zelda and Alan Wake, and so are you going to, because you know it's not your passion project.
You were voting because you don't want it to be Alan Wake rather than you do want it to be Zelda.
So-
Because
No.
If you had
I
me
have to
backing you
vote.
on Cocoon,
No, but I have to vote for one of these two now. And I would
you don't
rather...
because we're going for a
Well,
consensus.
of course I do.
Why?
But as I said, what we're voting on is what is the game of the year. You're not like pick between Zelda and Alan Wake just in a vacuum. Do you know what I mean?
No, but at this moment, this is a vacuum because we have to pick one of these two games.
Yes. Wait, I'm getting Scott Steiner math here. I think what Dave, but it's like we've got these 3. And I think what
we're back to 3 now.
Dave's speaking specifically within the context of not wanting to go to the poll, which I don't think any of us want to go to.
I don't think we
And
should.
so
in Game of the Year.
effectively,
And
it's
the
like
only way to
the options are you compelled by the argument that it's 2 people's number 1, or would you rather just go to the poll? Is effectively the dichotomy.
I just don't like. Again, it doesn't feel right going to the poll. Like we've gone to the poll so many times,
it is
and each time it's
unsatisfying.
felt where it's unsatisfying. It's not right.
But
Again, if you
after-
talk about a game that came out a month ago versus a game that we know what way the poll. Like no matter what, we know what way the poll
But
is going
there's
to go.
recency bias in that. Like
Yeah.
because people have played Alan, but Alan Wake might win in the polls. It might.
But I don't get like even if I was like even.
Zelda's like
And also, there's
But
also
I
half a
wouldn't
chance
feel.
Baldur's Gate is gonna fucking
Even if we
take
went
it.
to the poll and Alan Wake won, I wouldn't feel right. I wouldn't feel right.
I'm actually not confident Zelda would necessarily win, but I just I don't like the idea.
Because let's be honest, Baldur's Gate is winning the poll.
Because of everyone, Sean McGee's rallying around to vote.
I wouldn't feel right if Alan Wake won on the poll.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't feel right if Zelda wins on the poll. I think the only way to stop us from being here and having to pay for an extra night here is to go for like where I started this point.
Well,
I'm sorry, but I'm just not doing that.
I
But
kind
in
of
the spirit of, like I said, listening to the case, I mean, I don't think any collection of humans have discussed Alan Wake 2 more than we have at this table for the last weekend. I mean,
Yeah,
is
you
that
guys
not
love the game.
everything we've said and all the awards it's already won? Is it not
which is
moving
why
to
it's in
all-
the top 3. Like, it's not like I'm saying.
And it's
but
also
it's
why it's
you
the
know?
best game
and
of
it
the
was
year.
coming up against Zelda in some of these categories, and other categories it didn't because like character and stuff like that. Nothing from Zelda was even nominated.
And gameplay is a huge thing. Don't get me wrong. That is this category. But I totally agree with Dave's point. It's like Alan Wake in.
No,
and it's
like
not-
what's the fucking point in doing this if we just cop out and go to the polls?
It's not a numbers game because it's not about who won the most categories, obviously. But Alan Wake
then-
dog walks Zelda in most of them. I think it's worth noting that it does.
But then you're saying that, but Dave, Zelda's your second favorite game, right? Yeah. So, like, it was, if,
this is the strength of
Regardless
the
of which
Alan
one
Wake
it is,
stance.
it's not right to go to the poll.
yeah, but like if we went like 2-2 here, like you're 2, they're 2. If that's second for you, does that not then sway it just a little bit towards Zelda? No, but then you're feeling exactly the same way I feel, and then Mark feels, which is that you don't want to budge either. I don't want to go to the polls. I don't want to budge. I don't know how the fuck we solve that right now.
I think the only solution is the one I've proffered. Like we go with what our genuine
it's not
number
the
one.
only
No, it's not,
solution.
because I
It's
just
a
proffered another solution about like, okay, if it's your number one, then what's number 2? Like if we ranked it in order of numbers and then we added up what the points were for these top 3 and see which one came out on top.
But then Zelda's probably not his number 2. It's probably his number 3, which counterbalances mine.
Yeah, but one.
It probably mightn't even have gotten into. Would it gotten into your top 3?
Well, of these 3, or just generally my.
I don't know. Well, go.
I don't know if it would be in my top 5. I don't know. It would be my top 10.
Like so,
it might
you
be
have
5.
to be fair
It might
to
be
him
5
as well.
in my top 5.
You have to be fair to him as
Yeah,
well.
but Cocoon's outside of my top 10 as in the top 3 here.
Yeah. So you can't.
There's no perfect logic to any of this. Let's be completely fair.
No,
but I do think
everyone has a flaw. Every single one of these.
Everyone has a flaw, and this is why we added a 5th chair. This is why we have a poll.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it's and as always with these things, it's so chalk and cheese because Alan Wake and Zelda are so different as well. Yep. We're not talking about unfortunately we're not talking about a Spider-Man game and an Arkham game where they're so similar you can actually but I don't know. is there anything to be said for Spider-Man, lads? I thought that was really cool.
I might be open to this argument.
Can I say about Hi-Fi Rush? That was pretty good.
Oh man, I love that song they use.
Any of these
What's it
have a
called?
cat?
That's Super Mario Wonder, I tell you.
I don't know about got carried away now.
No Alan Wake, I'll tell you that much. Okay, I'm trying to think of any other fucking Model UN tactics we can use here to broach this.
Well, I think the only person that you could swing over really is Mark.
No,
he seems like the one I'd least likely to get.
yeah, that's.
Well, no, come on. I think you and Dave are least likely to be swung in any way.
I suppose, yeah.
Come on. Like, you guys love this game the same way I love Zelda, and it's very hard.
And I do agree with Dave saying that it's our number one with a bullet, and it's Jack. I mean, is it shitty to break it down in numbers that way? Yeah, but this is where we are. We are deadlocked, and we are agreed. Well, not we're agreed, but nobody wants to do the poll.
It's tough.
But I think regardless of what wins, we're always going to regret if this goes to the poll.
But the thing is,
I don't know what's the point of doing this. We just put out a poll, and whatever wins.
If we didn't have Garrett last year, we'd have had the same issue.
Yeah,
we never had it before we had Garrett.
We
had the 1 year where we came up with the.
By the way, it doesn't matter what happened last year. Elden Ring was winning at a canter last year.
You say that again.
But me as a person who didn't like it, clearly Elden Ring was the best video game last year. Like, I don't. It's very hard to delineate between these two, and I feel very similar to when it was Breath of the Wild and Odyssey. And ironically, I was on the other side arguing for the non-Zelda game. Yeah. But it's also incredibly unsatisfying to do a joint winner.
I would say it's a lot.
Because that's like you said, the Breath of the Wild thing. Like again, we did joint winners, and we always regretted that.
I would say
every year
it's a lot closer between these two than it was Elden Ring and Live Alive from last year.
Looking back as well, I was definitely digging my heels in on I don't want Breath of the Wild to win. Look, every year I look at it and go, I should have just conceded and just left Breath of the Wild because I hate a joint winner. Like it's just not like, as
a
great
joint
as Mario Odyssey is.
A joint winner is bad. A poll winner is bad.
Yeah. I mean, like,
see, like Alan Wake's won a lot of stuff. It has. Right?
That's not a...
Yeah,
no, I'm not using that as an argument, but Alan Wake has won a lot of stuff so far. So you have definitely got it into a really good position. Yeah. So like people, you can see it. It's not like you're ever going to look back and regret any of it.
I think so. I'm just thinking of ways to dissect this to try and get, because it doesn't even have to be, okay, I'm going to focus on you, Mark, and you're going to switch. I'm going to focus on you. We're the four of us are trying to figure out what the game of the year is. So I don't want to do this, Mark, come over and join our side, and next year I'll fucking sort you out with a vote next year. Don't you worry about it. The four of us are trying to figure out what the game of the year is. And I would just say
20 quid?
That if I'd rather give him a vote next year than give him 20 quid. I mean, the other thing I would say as well, just a way to approach it is that, like, I mean, of these two games, like, we have played both of them. That's another factor.
I've played all three of them.
Is that you played? Well, I played all three of them as well.
Yeah.
I didn't finish Cocoon, but it's like, and like, you prefer Alan Wake, somewhat over Zelda, and I have tons of misgivings about Zelda. Yeah. I mean, does that not count for anything at all?
Not again, because you know very well if I played this game, I'd be even more against it.
Well, if wishes were fishes, the world would be an ocean, but you haven't played the game. And that's part of why I didn't want to have, like, the Torch conversation. Like, I don't want to talk about the hypothetical problems you would have with these games. Do you know what I mean? I
we have done that for hours. We have done that to people before, however dirty people or not. You haven't played it.
Yeah, I mean,
and I think that's been done to all of us at a certain point where, like, you haven't played it.
Bits aside, I couldn't really make an argument against the likes of Live Alive because it was just not my...
by the way, I was expecting it when I did the thing about the light torch. I do think it sucks, but I would never, like, actually say, something I watched looks crap.
Because it's both our number ones, but it's also something that we have a ton of mileage on Zelda as well. So it's not even in a vacuum. We just love Alan Wake 2. We are both confidently Alan Wake 2 hours in that game. We are both Alan Wake over Zelda confidently.
It's also your own fault because you told me to go play Control, and I did, and I thought it was bad.
I'm not. Don't hold 4-year-old games over me. My God.
That I will say. It's not to say you'd like it anymore, but it doesn't like play like Control at all.
No.
Yeah. Oh dear. I've never felt this.
Never felt this way before?
No, because there's a mediator that exists within me. Really is. Like, every phase of my life, like, I never I'm happy to have arguments and debates and stuff, but like a lot of the time I want to move away from conflict and move towards resolution. But I find it really hard here because then I have to sort of like, it's my favorite game of the year, like, and a smash hit, amazing game that I'll look back years later and really be like, oh, really? I just let it go to number 2 just to avoid awkwardness at a dinner table in the random middle of Ireland. Like, and that's why I can't. I feel like I really wouldn't be being true to myself if I changed my position on it. Like I say, the only real swing vote, I guess, is Mark. That is
because he already swung.
Yeah, but it's like, I'm never getting a pair of you off this. So
never.
There you go. Well, yeah.
But I do sincerely think that, like, I just feel like it should count for something that between the two of us we have like 150 hours in Zelda. Do you know what I mean? So if we're like,
it's maybe my favorite video game franchise of all time, and I can't believe I'm in this position. Like this, do you know what this feels closest to in terms of game of the year decision? The first year, where I was put up, I had to choose between Witcher 3 and Metal Gear Solid.
Yeah,
this thing that came out of nowhere as a sequel to games I didn't like, that blew me away and is one of my favorite games of all time, versus the newest and shiniest and biggest entry in one of my favorite childhood franchises.
Yeah.
And I'm going the same way again. I'm consistent on that because I went with Witcher that time, and the equivalent of the Witcher in this thing is...
Like I told you, I'm doing exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
Because I was always Final Fantasy over. And Final Fantasy is gone. It's not even in this.
It's gone.
It's just done.
Gone. It wasn't even nominated for Game of the Year.
It's toast. No, it's dust in the wind, mate. Blown away.
Oh, video games.
Yeah, they're good. They're
2023. Good year.
Good year, yeah.
I mean... They're all good games, lads. I mean...
Like dogs. They're all good dogs.
They're all good dogs.
Yeah.
Resident Evil Village.
That's a game. Let me fucking do that big fucking baby. What the fuck?
Yeah, the fucking doll parts.
I tell you,
sorry, you finish. You go first.
If the bit where
I'm just about to be very maudlin about the process.
If the bit where Alan Wake had gone into the police station and it wasn't Scratch, but it was the Yeager clan, that'd be a different story. You know,
if the Yeager clan was in Alan
the Switch
Wake
version should have that. Man, that would look really funny.
But I just look at like talking about the. I don't know if anybody. I don't think anybody necessarily is particularly pushing for the poll. But like,
I don't think there's any other way.
What I'm saying about the poll is that like we've done this 9 times, and I will, for the first time, come away from this going, I don't know if I want to do it next year.
Well,
if we go to a poll.
To be honest, that was kind of me to some degree last year because I genuinely last year. Because like it's our game of the year.
That's kind of is, and that is like, that's why I was saying earlier, like, I don't want to do this thing. I'm going to negotiate with Jack to get him over. It's the 4 of us are trying to figure out the game of the year, and that's why I think, like, has the case not been made, even though it's not year thing, has the case not been made significantly for Alan Wake over the last 2 days?
No,
but the case has been made.
You don't think it has been?
No, I think it being one of the top 2 for sure, which is why we're here. But
they're all good games.
At the end of it, because hey, I didn't pick Elden Ring last year.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm being true to myself. I could have just been like, hey, Elden Ring, best game last year. I might as well pick that. But I didn't pick Elden Ring last year.
I played like 10-15 hours of it, and I
true to yourself,
every minute.
True to the process would be what we've done in a couple of categories. I know I've done it a couple of times in this show where it's like, my number 1 is gone. I go with what everybody else is feeling, what the temperature is in the room.
Yep.
And when you're number 1 gone, 2 of us were number 1 for Wake, and 1 of us was 1 for Zelda. And that's the way I look at it. I think that's the most genuine way to fix it.
I look at it from, all right, we're down to the last 2. I have to pick one of them. I'm going to pick Zelda.
That's not the way it is.
Well, of course it is.
Because no, it's not, because I was faced with your situation in other categories and have been in other years, and that's not how I did it. Okay. I went with...
And just this year, you stuck 2 guns on thirsty suitors, you know.
And there's no issue with your way of approaching it. I don't have an issue with that, but that doesn't mean that has to be the way that I approach it.
But just this year...
One isn't right and one isn't wrong.
You stuck with thirsty suitors, though, just this year.
Yeah. Because
I can do that. Yeah, I can pick that, but that doesn't mean I have to do that the same for every
I'm not saying you
category.
have to, but I'm just saying that's what Dave is saying, though, is just kind of like, it's like, I think Dave's point ultimately, and I do kind of agree, is that you don't really want Zelda to be game of the year, realistically. Not just against Alan Wake, but just generally Zelda is not your game of the year.
It's in my top 3.
Right, okay,
Like,
but it's not your game
But
of
that's
the
a
year.
no.
Yeah, it's in my top 3.
But it is Jack's game of the year.
But I still have to pick one.
Sorry,
of
guys.
those.
I know. We know. Obviously, that something has to be picked. But I think, we're just, because we're down to
Because
such.
we're consensus, yeah.
We are down to such hair splitting. And let me just acknowledge that this is all hair splitting.
Of course
This
it
is
is.
all hair splitting. And I just think that is Dave's point, is that ultimately it's at this table. No just against Alan Wake or Cocoon. At this table, Zelda is one person's game of the year. Do you think that is then should become the podcast's game of the year?
Well, it's not becoming the podcast game of the year because it's 2 against 2.
Mark, you get what I'm saying though.
But it's not the podcast game of the year
What do you mean it's not?
because it's 2 against 2. So how is it the podcast game of the year? How is one of them podcast game of the year?
Because no, but I'm saying but it's not. Right? I'm saying it's not.
Yeah.
So then we're agreeing. So but it can't be. But you're saying there it's 2 against 2, but it's not. This is what I'm saying. Remove Alan Wake versus Zelda, and just in terms of who has Zelda as their game of the year at this table.
No,
it's one
I get
person.
that. Yeah,
and
sure.
then so hypothetically, if we're deadlocked because you're going to stick to voting for Zelda, and we go to let's say hypothetically we go to the poll and the poll is Zelda, and then Zelda ends up being the game of the year for the show. Do you really think that ultimately having the show's game of the year be that one person
only
at the
really
table
one person's game of the
sincerely
year?
had it as number one?
But you're
I don't
asking
think
me
that's fair.
then to pick for Alan Wake,
No.
which I don't agree with.
Of course,
No.
yes.
What I'd be asking you to do, what I would do.
So ultimately, neither your game of the year is not going to be the podcast game of the year. So
Usually never is.
but my point is that either way, you're not getting your game of the year as game of the year. My point is that it's just what I said. I'll say it again. If it went to the poll and Zelda won and it became the Link to the Cast game of the year was Legend of Zelda, do you think it's really right that the game of the year that this committee picked was one actual person's game of the year at the table?
Because if my game of the year is not the game of the year, which again it usually never is, then what's the next game that comes along that qualifies to be game of the year? Which for me would obviously be Tears of the Kingdom, which I have no issue with if that comes up and ends up being game of the year because it's an incredible game that is going to be many people's game of the year. Like if we were here and at the end of this it was like fucking Dredge was game of the year by whatever process, I'd be like,
all right, well, I'm listening. Okay,
it's pretty cool, but I mean, come on now.
we're back.
Like, to this end up being the fucking, potentially Tears of the Kingdom's game of the year, I don't exactly have an issue with that. And in the next process of elimination of what my next game of the year would be that is left, it is Tears of the Kingdom. And that is not a disqualifying, factor with this.
I don't think Tears of the Kingdom winning is any kind of injustice. My point was more.
I think it's. I don't think it's an
Game X
injustice
being
that
one
it would
person's
be
number one and
Yeah.
then being the
Yeah.
podcast number one. It could have been. It could have been Dredge. If one person at this table was Dredge is my number one, and then it somehow got to be the podcast number one, would that not be odd?
That would be very odd.
Because because we joke
Same,
about-
and
when-
Cocoon,
when-
I suppose in terms of the voting, Cocoon is the closest.
Was
Like,
we all-
would
we-
it turn out weird? Like if Cocoon, I know you'd love it.
we've all.
You'd be fucking Cocoon day tomorrow.
We've all had the results that we pull out. We joke about it when you read down the previous winners every year, and we laugh about Ape Out and all this stuff. So we all have the things of a game. We don't give a shite about winning the category. My thing is more so. One person's number one somehow by a kind of a kind of deadlock just becoming the game of the year. But I think there's no dancing around it. If we don't want to move, I think it's just going to have to be the poll. It's just going to be the way it is, and the poll knows all, and we see the poll.
Yeah, it sucks though, doesn't it?
Like what's the fucking point in everything we've done so far?
But that's
Like, it's
specifically
fine.
what the poll is there for a deadlock.
Yeah, I know, but you agree with us ultimately that the poll is like it's there as in case of emergency break.
They're a
That's
genuine.
for how many hours are we? Out of curiosity, how many hours deep are we in recording?
About 2020, which is not
overall.
Yeah.
I mean, so we know why the poll is there, so that we can say who was actually the funniest dog of the year.
but also-
to get to the overall game of the year poll.
But then also, again, there's the caveat, and for the reasons and everything. Like if Garrett was here, it's a completely different ball field. Like,
Yeah, but we don't. Yeah,
and again, last year is completely different if Garrett's not here. And look, but that factor can't be
Yeah, we
It's
can't
how
sit
it
on
is.
hypotheticals.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But
Can I
so-
just
but
can
the
I just
situation-
message Garrett and say
No, the chaos of that would be so. Actually, no, that might be great.
I'm in Messenger right now. I can
No.
just
He'll just block you when he finds out we cut Liza P at like.
That's what you're saying. He would just say Liza P.
Should I just
No, God, no.
I just say Liza P or Alan Wake, and then edit it to Zelda later on.
Oh. Lord.
Yeah.
Lord.
Yeah. I don't want.
I think we've
I don't
attacked
want it
this
to-
from every
yeah,
angle. We've gone the
Oh.
numbers game. We've gone the other awards cumulative. We've gone the who has it as number one. We've whatever way you slice it. You know, like out of curiosity, like look. So like Elden Ring was not like your number one, but like how many people did have it as their number one? Me, you, and Garrett. So at the end of the day, that was not so. Even though
Can I just say
you two didn't have it number one, it wasn't some weird. It slipped through and got there.
Nothing has ever slipped through.
But I
mean, maybe Apel.
Elden Ring.
No, because I think that was multiple people.
Yeah.
I was Control.
Even though you were the Ape Out, you had support. There was love for Ape Out. I was the down man on Ape Out, but Ape Out had love.
Did Ape Out not win on the poll?
It won on the poll. We didn't go to the poll.
Yeah.
But did it also win?
Because I think I led it because two of you were Control and I was I was even higher on Control than you were at the time.
But every time Remedy releases a game, it's just going to be fucking like, oh my god.
Well, look,
They need to just make another clunker. They need to make Phantom. What was that TV show? Phantom Break. Quantum Break.
Yeah.
2 should be their next one. So we don't.
I mean,
even have to
if
talk
they'd
about it.
released this game of the year, that they didn't have like Zelda coming out.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
I really want to, but I can't. I just love Zelda too much to.
To go back. I mean, you are Zelda number one with the book.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I get that.
Yeah, that hurts, and I also feel the same way as Dave, where it's like I just
feel like this was a complete waste of time.
I
genuinely
don't
disagree
feel
with
like
that.
No, I don't agree.
You can if you want. That's just how
I don't.
all this arguing and talking and trying to come up with this.
Well, that's what the whole point of this is. You have those conversations.
Yeah,
But no, I don't mind losing in a straight up, like if it was 3-1 against me, do you know what I mean? Or if it was 2-1 against me and you were like full board Cocoon, fine. Do you know what I mean? Like, but to do it this way.
And Garrett says
right.
Xenoblade 3 DLC is Game of the Year. Does that help anyone?
Did that come out this year? I guess it probably did.
Yeah, there was some DLC this year. Yeah. But I don't feel like any of this. I enjoy talking about these games, and, you know, even in categories where my stuff doesn't win, it's still fun to hear, you know, why other things are great and why things are interesting, and, you know, maybe why other people had issues with things that I didn't have issues with.
I have way less of an issue if it goes to the poll and Alan Wake wins, because that's what the whole point of it is there for. Like, it's why.
But
if
it's
we
like
didn't have
Barry
that,
said, the poll isn't there for this category.
But we have no idea. We generally have no
That's why
idea.
I'm saying blind. Regardless of what wins, I don't feel right about.
Because Dave said earlier, even if Alan Wake wins, he hates the idea.
I
of doing
don't
the
care. I
poll.
hate the idea of the poll deciding this.
Because
I absolutely hate it.
But then, why would you do the poll for Game of the Year? Like,
Because we need to have it.
Because we want to know what they think.
Right.
We want to know what they think.
But if we're gonna have if this is here because we need it in the case of this, and you're saying that you don't like it and you hate it, then why do we have it?
Because I think absolutely
because of the
at a certain point we have to stop. At a certain point we have to stop.
That's where we are.
But also the nature of the tie is what makes me feel weirder as well. Like it's not a 2-2 in the way that other categories.
Yeah,
have been. It's a 2-1-1 that moved to a 2-2.
To do one more hypothetical, if it was two people had Zelda at number one, and I was between Cocoon and Zelda, and I'm the Alan Wake lover, I feel like I wouldn't vote for Cocoon just to say, well, I just don't like that.
And I have done that. I can't remember what category I did that on this show. Whereas mine's gone, so I'll go with whoever.
But also keep in mind here, I'm not picking Alan Wake out of spite.
No, I know.
I genuinely very much think that Tears of the Kingdom is one of the best games of the year
Ever. For me.
Let's not get grandiose. Let's just stick to this year.
Well, no, it's for me. It's for me. I know you don't necessarily agree.
Anyone have a coin? Let's just do this the old way. I'm gonna flip one of those chocolate biscuits. Someone call it in the air, chocolate or not chocolate.
Bernard Black. Let's flip a coin and hope it explodes and kills us.
sucks us into the fucking dark zone or whatever.
But yeah, who's writing this script? That's the real question.
I don't know. We have gone very meta where we've basically broken down the whole process.
That is true.
Yeah.
That is true. We've assigned numeric values to
Folks,
everything.
you are welcome.
Yeah.
This is yeah. No, they're loving this. They're loving this. The people who really matter. The fine folks at Remedy who developed games who we sent this to and said we're no longer speaking to each other because of your motherfucking game.
Fucking Nintendo, you pricks. Don't
Someone please translate it and send it to Nintendo also.
I don't want to lose a friend. Please don't bring out another Zelda game.
No more games.
Yep.
Okay.
Stop all the games.
Okay. No, you're just going to have to suck it up and just do the poll because no one's moving. So we're just going to have to do it. And we can grumble about it, but we're going to have to do it. Because
Such an asterisk to put on this.
yeah, and to be fair, I am
I
with you,
feel
and I
worse
totally
about
agree.
this than the joint year.
I hate the joint.
I hate the joint year. I'm not saying I'm fucking wild about the joint year.
So what's worse though, like the joint year or a poll? You're saying
What?
the poll is worse than a joint year?
I'm not as bothered by Dave, but I do get where he's coming out. Like this, I feel like we've done 100 hours on. You know what I mean? We've gone so.
Yeah.
We've done so much, and it does feel really.
Yeah.
Hollow.
It feels bad to end
even
on
if
it.
even if we come like I keep saying, even if we go over here and fucking Alan Wake got 30 out of 30 votes, I still won't feel good about
To be
it.
fair, if Alan Wake got 30 out of 30 votes, my argument is in the dust, maybe.
Yeah. Well, I know it didn't because Mark voted.
That's a good vote. Oh yeah, and I did vote for Zelda, like surprisingly. Oh man.
Oh dear.
But the only
It's
one,
about the friends we made along the way.
the only
isn't
one
it?
thing I will say, I suppose, is if I'm a person watching this, part of me is probably like, why the fuck did I fill out this poll if these guys are so angry?
We
about
want to
not
know, like
getting
we
the
want
poll?
to like again. It's always nice to know what their game of
Yeah,
the year
yeah.
was, and like a lot of it as well is for the listener interaction of like getting to see what their tastes are.
Yeah,
So it's not like the poll in this category is completely meaningless.
I think it is important to have a tiebreaker, but we even bemoaned going to the tiebreaker for
And it's-
other categories.
And it's
you know?
the nature of the tiebreaker and the amount of tiebreakers we've had as well has been a fatigue on top of everything.
and that's why.
And again, like we get back into everything about the amount of categories that we have voted Alan Wake best in class in, and
you
Zelda in
two
this.
voted Alan Wake best in class.
But also that Zelda
That's
either
the
wasn't
important
nominated or lost. You
Yeah,
know?
but-
and
yeah,
that's not
but
everything.
Zelda-
That's not everything. I know we don't need to get back into that.
Yeah,
We've done
'cause
this
Zelda
bit
is
as well.
greater than the sum
But
of
I'm
its
just,
parts, you know?
I'm just.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say so was Alan Wake. We're going back into we're just
The
getting
same. Yeah,
circular.
we don't want to repeat ourselves. Yeah.
Because you use that thing there, but if we go back to, I'd say Hitman, which one? That's not best looking or best soundtrack of that year, or maybe best. I'm guessing Helmut Kruger probably won best character, but
He
I
didn't.
don't think
It wasn't a category, but
there you go.
retrospectively, if we having that
No,
conversation,
I'm not saying that's the and to what you're saying. No, that's completely fair. I'm not saying that's
totally
the
fair.
singular thing why I feel weird about it, but I'm just saying it's a cumulative effect of a lot of things that have me.
Well, not to hone in
feeling
on that
good about
specific
this.
example, but I feel like you actually could. It didn't win, but you could have made a case for Hitman that year in those categories. Whereas I don't think Zelda went very easily on all those other ones. You know what I mean?
I found it painful with the music because I do think the music in Zelda is very good.
It is really good.
Yeah, and I do think it looks really cool, but it wasn't going to hang against some of the other games in there. And the games that I wanted to win that category were more unique in terms of the way
I
they
think
were.
when it comes to best soundtrack, it's very hard for those understated mood pieces to show in.
Yeah.
If that they're always going to struggle
has
with
to be
this.
something-
I knew when I was nominating Dredge, it's way too understated. It's not going to the bigger soundtracks did, which is perfectly fair.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I feel like at least once a year we do bring up that this game swept in all these other categories, and it's it doesn't actually sway things, but I do think it's worth noting.
It's noting, and it's part of the cumulative effect. It's not the singular reason why I'm let's not do the poll, but it's another thing on top of the other stuff we've talked about for fucking ages now. And that doesn't have to necessarily mean that it's another thing for you or another thing for you.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's another in a series of half a dozen things for me where I'm just this is not going to the poll is not right.
Yeah.
And yep.
Garrett, please come back. We need you. We need, like, even, well, here's the thing, right? If we go to the poll now, okay, let's just say this, yeah? If we go to the poll now, we have to make a pact that if one of us can't do it, like, so we don't have Garrett this year, if I can't come, or if Barry can't do it, or if Dave's like, I never want to do this again because I don't want to go to the poll again, right? We always have to have, maybe even if it's just for this category, we always have to have like an uneven number of people of 5 because
well, if you have 4 people, where are you going to find the 5th person? We're going to find a sheep and like get that
no but
I think Jack, that's the guy who runs this Airbnb. We have all 5.
But the thing is, we know
Tom, what do you think?
we know people that play and like video games.
Yes, and we told them.
Yes. Yeah, I know, but we could have somebody on here to give that opinion.
But that leads into different places. Like say it was Liza P was in here, and Garrett was just like, I know, let's go to Sean McGee. I wonder who he'll think.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, you can cherry pick that. Like, that doesn't take bias out.
The people that are really, like, the close to us that have been on the show, like, the people...
But that's even worse because we know their tastes. We know, like, each one of us knows which one to pick to get the one we want.
I appreciate the sentiment, but I think it's really
way more
forced.
devious than I was thinking with it, because I was like...
Have you been on this show before?
when Jack started this point, I thought what he was going to say is, if someone can't make it, we should reschedule.
That's too rational.
Just push it out a couple of weeks until the 5 of us can be here.
Oh my god.
Yeah. Or get someone in on Zoom.
What did you think, my close personal friend Sam Lake?
Yeah.
It's a dungeon. I like the lightning, but the water not so much.
Just gives me anyone from Tokyo to do this category for me, please. Yeah, but you know what I mean? I think we need an uneven number of people to do this.
Yeah, you're right.
And like you say, whether it's reschedule or whether it's we...
Okay, but you say that, but then there's still
we could fight.
But there's still the possibility you end up with there's still a possibility
you end up with a 3-way, everybody votes 1 and doesn't move.
Or you get like
know
a
2-2-1. If I wasn't here,
but
that's less likely.
Then he's Alan Wake. You're Cocoon.
Yeah.
Or, do you know what I mean? Like,
but then I think he would be the more likely to come over to.
But it also mightn't have ended up with Alan. Like, do you know what I mean? It might be another game that Mark is less ambivalent towards.
All I'm saying is that even with an odd number of people doing this, it doesn't completely 100%.
Because like for all we know, like, you know, if it was already at 2-2, you might have felt comfortable enough to just stay with Cocoon.
I mean, I'd probably just checked out at that point.
I don't think you would.
But you never know. You never know.
It's hard to say.
Yeah. We can't. Like, again, we're getting into the dealing with hypotheticals thing.
Yeah.
I don't know why I still had the list open with those 2 games staring back up at me. That's why I just turned off my phone there.
Yeah.
I was like, all right. So I was like, are we cutting Cocoon or what's going on here, boys? I could do the trip to Coffee World right now.
Yeah.
How do we feel about Baldur's Gate 3?
So,
You know, Sean has been shouting Baldur's Gate 3 at his computer.
Although, you know what?
screen
It's probably a case. I'm sure one of his cases might be if more of you played it, this problem would be alleviated and you'd all be voting.
No, I
Baldur's
feel like
Gate.
I'd have the same issue with Alan Wake 2. The more I play it, the more I hate it.
These hypotheticals, man.
It's a hypothetical I'm more comfortable betting on than others.
Wait, Baldur's Gate or
that he would hate Alan Wake.
No, I'm talking about Baldur's Gate.
Oh, sorry.
No. Back, look, you have known me for how long?
I know.
You are one of the 3 people that have signed my Irish citizenship application.
Well, I'm feeling like taking that back right now, but you know,
too late. So
Let's just mercy here. Call the guards on him.
Oh.
Just give us a fucking poll so we can play some SmackDown 2 already. God.
Now that's a game.
SmackDown 2, know your...
How are we feeling?
Say know your enemy there for
What's
a second.
the temperature check on SmackDown 2 for this category?
Pretty good. It's pretty good.
Okay.
Same year as No Mercy?
Yeah.
Sure.
Year after, I think. Yeah, because awkward silence.
Have fun editing this one, Jack.
Hey, listen, I don't know.
What's like
There's part of me that's like, will you cut the last 45 minutes? But also, like, it's the transparency of you got to leave it in.
No, we're going to remove it.
I felt like that. If this was a regular show, there would be parts of this I'd trim out.
What was the 1 year of Giant Bomb in particular where they were just at a deadlock?
Was it Skyrim, Red Dead? Or no, they weren't the same year. It was something. It was the
I
Skyrim
remember
year.
they were like, the Red Dead conversation was as bitter as fuck.
Yeah.
You either thought that was the greatest thing ever, or you
Okay, yeah, it wasn't Red Dead versus Skyrim, but it was. I think those 2 years were. I think those 2 years were bad.
Yeah.
Because Skyrim was 2011. Skyrim was 2011, wasn't it? Red Dead was 2010.
Red Dead was also the year they changed the format and were going alphabetically through.
I think the way to get us closer to solution is to give out about other people's game of the year.
What was their deal with that, man?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's just like you'd rather talk about anything else other than
Then go
because
to the poll.
I got that fucking like I'm getting to the point now where I'm like the poll, just because it's the only, and then we just say that we can't. Like it has to be like a number of people that is gonna, because if there was I know you say that it's still possible, but it's so much less likely that this happens with another person.
I mean, yes, like it is
But also,
less likely.
I also feel that's unfair because that's like putting it on Garrett in absentia.
But it's not putting I'm saying that's why
on anybody on the fifth chair. So I do want to make note of that. Like, we're not saying that Garrett would solve all our problems.
But that's why I very, very clearly said when I made that point at first, if it isn't Garrett, if it isn't any one of us, like, there might be something that happens in any one of our lives that prevents us from being here. The world is the world the way it is, right? Okay, so
we can be on assignment at any time.
Exactly. Anyone can be on assignment for any reason. Good.
Oh shit! I gotta go. I have an assignment, by the way.
Good luck, that's what we have Toby for. Toby comes in.
To be fair, if Barry left, it does make things very easy deciding what's game of the year. Like,
no, because then we'd be just two people have it as their number one. Yeah. Two different games.
No, but you'd be out of the room, and there's three people left, and
then we'd have three unique number ones.
Yeah. No,
I'd still go Zelda.
Yeah,
get this over and done with.
Yeah. Right, I think it's the poll.
We've attacked it from every conceivable angle.
It's the poll.
We've.
I don't like it. Where's the poll?
Oh, wait, racist.
Wait, what?
Don't like polls. Sorry, that's my dad joke for the day.
Oh, like Polish? Jesus. Oh, there's like 3 or 4 different uses of poll I'd think of before that.
Right. Is that it?
I mean...
Yeah. Unless we want to get another 20 minutes and get this up to 3 hours. I do not.
Oh, God.
Okay, we have 5 statistically significant entries for Game of the Year.
Okay.
All right.
So I'm gonna scan them like I did with the other categories. I'm gonna scan them quick because if we look like idiots if we count down and neither one of them are in the top 5.
Man,
that in some ways
that would be the funniest ending, is if the poll can't even help us.
Oh God! Oh God!
I will say there was a point.
Oh, they drew. Oh my God!
No,
I'm
actually. I was going to say this, right. There was a point. You know, I've always said on the podcast, I always check when a few entries have come in to make sure everything's going right.
Yeah.
Game of the Year was a 4-way tie.
Wow.
After about a third of the votes.
Oh shit!
Oh, that's horrible.
That's amazing. That's awesome. That's good. I mean, that speaks to how good this year has been.
I didn't think, like, again, the odds of it remaining a 4-way tie, it's not like I was, again, I don't want to make it seem like I was trying to stop the poll because I was like, oh, there's going to be more ties at the end of this and they don't know it.
Yep.
Right, I'm just going to scan away. Anybody who'd like the suspension of disbelief to remain, please avoid looking at my screen for a moment.
I've not been able to see it.
I can't see.
Or the wheel.
I'm not looking.
Yeah. Someone might need a corroborator though, just in case.
The wheel has definitely been legit.
That motherfucking wheel.
Yeah, Dave's wheel.
I can tell you, and this doesn't make me feel any better, that the margin was 6.7%.
Yeah, Brexit! Woo, woo, woo!
Dude, that was 4%.
Yeah.
And neither one of them was number 1.
Oh,
I knew that would be the case. I knew that would be the case.
Baldur's Gate,
I think Baldur's Gate is the hit of the year. I think that's...
Yep.
But what if it isn't?
So, number 2 for Game of the Year, 13.3% is Alan Wake 2. Making number 1 by the poll, 20%. Legend of Zelda.
Okay.
Tears of the Kingdom.
What? Oh God, what is number one then?
So I am almost certain it's Baldur's Gate. I haven't gone over it. It's Baldur's Gate.
It is Baldur's Gate.
Wow.
Because
Baldur's Gate beat Zelda by the exact same percentage that Zelda beat Alan Wake.
Wow.
that one.
I mean, I'm still not playing Baldur's Gate, but thanks people. Thanks for voting. Appreciate it. Cheers.
Yeah. It does matter. It does. Yeah. But we can't have this happen again.
That's what we said when we had a tie.
Yeah. Yeah, but that's why. Yeah, we brought the extra person in, but we brought the poll in after the tie, didn't we, to settle the thing, and then we brought someone else in for the more satisfaction.
We've done both, and it still didn't help.
Can we say?
We tried nothing. We're all out of ideas, man.
Can we say though? A very good year for video games. An exceptional year. Again, the industry
also weirdly, I think like the top strata was an all-timer year for video games. And then there's like outside of that as well, because it's also the least nominees we've ever had for Game of the Year.
Yeah.
But we were so passionate about the ones we did have.
There was a surprising amount of crossover as well,
But if you look at like cumulatively some of the other years where we've had more on the polls, there's probably more that we feel strongly about this year. Because you have multiple entries in other previous years, and a lot of them that are easy to just scrape off.
Yeah, I think what's happened in previous years is you've had like maybe 4 or 5 like really strong games, and then the other 5 are like just kind of like 7 out of 10s or maybe 8 out of 10s, but they're very like subjective to that person. Yeah. Where I think you've got like a lot of common consensus great games here, which is why there's nominations. And like, I can see a lot of these games. If you look at the Giant Bomb, when they get the celebrity people in, and like the publications and whatnot, so many of these games are going to be appearing in that. I think the only kind of big omission for us is like an Armored Core 6 will probably show up for a bunch of people, but so many of these are going to show up, I think.
Well, I think the exact conversation we just had, maybe if you add Baldur's Gate 3 in, is going to be like a deadlock in so many other publications.
Yeah, for all we know, like Gara could have ended up on Baldur's Gate
easily.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, for everyone that loves it and they love it that passionately, it must be a really fantastic video game.
I have heard that Baldur's Gate 3, in fact, quite a good game.
So, yeah.
Thanks for listening, folks. I hope you're not as blown up as we are.
That's another. We are done, Gus. That is Game of the Year 2023. I was about to say 2022 again. Under wraps. It's done. It's back in the box for another year. We got to go take a walk in the pitch black in the south of Ireland.
Slippy out there.
Yeah, it's pretty slippy. Yeah, but you know what?
-1.
Maybe an old bit of concrete upside the face might rouse me out of this stupor I'm in now.
Yeah.
Okay, now. Well, anyway, look. Sincerely, from all of us, thank you all for listening in. Like it is, we do enjoy, in spite of the last 3 hours.
We actually are having so much fun.
I love
twice at the camera if you're having fun.
Yeah.
I think, as a general whole thing, start to finish, I think it's like one of the things I'm proudest of every year in terms of things I put out there in the world.
Yeah.
And I think like there's a reason we keep because no one's paying us to do this.
No.
Do you know what I mean?
That
like,
much is very apparent.
We have to have a passion for it, and to have people listen to it and endure the length of time that we go in circles on these things it means a lot to me.
Yep. Same.
Sure.
And in spite of the harsh words we've had for each other, I love these guys.
It happens every year.
And it's been like it is great to have this excuse. I think the vibe of this weekend is that in-person Game of the Years are going to be happening.
They're great. Yeah.
I think this is much like until the end. This was like our favorite process we've done ever.
Yeah.
So thank you all for like. I think if we were just shouting into the void, we probably would have given up by now, and we just go on a lads' holiday and shout at each other.
I just want to say a big thank you to the town of Parts Unknown for hosting us for the weekend.
Yeah. Thank you, Parts Unknown, adjacent to Death Valley. And Truth or Consequences, New Mexico.
Next year we're going to be doing it from Silent Hill, which I think is going to be pretty dope.
We'll be doing it from the dark place.
Yeah. So
let me tell tell you about this Silent Hill
Mark
Ascension.
refused to move from his point, even though it wasn't his number one. He just loves Zelda.
So
Dave gripped the table, his fingernails clutching into the wood.
Do you know what? There was about 20 minutes where Dave had his arms folded. I just wanted to get up and go over there and just give him a really big hug. Just like he looked.
Jack embraced his friend and co-host. The tension left the room.
Dave shivved him in the gut. He's dead now. 2 versus 1.
Love you guys.
I think this was I might have been the last one where a final game of the year didn't break them yet.
Yeah.
Now, it isn't most spectacular breaking because certain hosts of the podcast were hospitalized shortly after Game of the Year one year.
That's true.
That's a tough one to beat.
It has happened. It has happened.
You know
has
what?
happened.
It makes sense that we would have this degree of deadlock this year, since last year was such a we know what it is year.
Yeah.
So it's kind of fitting that it went this way. You can't have 2 years in a
Swung
row
right to the opposite.
where
Yeah, it's testament to
I did not feel good about last year's one, but that's purely a personal.
But
thing,
it was just the best game. Like there was no.
It wasn't like not even so much
game.
like. I knew-
Anyway,
I knew-
before we do a rerun,
fair.
what I was trying to say was thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks everyone.
Thanks
for
to these
listening.
guys.
Yep.
Like again, I think when me and Mark sat down and went we should record a thing about video games, to have gotten here is really weird.
Yeah.
Profoundly weird.
Year 9.
To
Year
picked
9.
up these guys along the way. We somehow coaxed you into doing it weekly, but the fact that Barry, we do sincerely appreciate that you come
you're
around
bigger
for
than all
this
of us
every
three
year.
fucking
and
yahoos,
it is genuinely, it is great to have you. And it's been great to have Garrett as well.
Yes.
As it's just the lobbing in the chaos bombs.
He's the best. I miss him so much.
Sorely missed.
So much right now.
And you better believe that man is coming back with a great vengeance next year.
Yeah, you're going to have to deal with McGee.
We're gonna have to.
and Garrett
We're
coming
gonna
to
have
the-
two separate January shows.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
But anyway, I suppose just in wrapping up, thank you all so much for listening and watching, whatever way you did it. At Link to the Cast, follow us there. Mugs available nowhere. Individually, I'm at the Day to Dave. My day one podcasting buddy here, Mark, is at Lithium Project. Jack is at Jack Lazell. Barry is at the Barry Lad. The absent Garrett Kidney is at Garrett Kidney. I hope you all had a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And until next year, but until the end of January, after I think this is the most well-deserved hiatus the podcast has ever had, we will be back at the end of January with a new season with the annual McGee Roasts the Game of the Year special.
Yes.
I cannot wait. But yeah, until then, thank you all very much, and we'll see you again very soon.